Hey guys, it's Ishani, aka Total Makeup Junkie 101. This video is without a doubt the biggest project I have ever taken on my channel. When I say I have been working on this video for literal weeks, it has been weeks, you guys. This is a passion project for me. I am so excited about this video. Today, we are going to be starting a new series on my channel called Makeup Museum, okay? We're gonna be starting off by talking about holiday palettes. I know a lot of you guys have been in the beauty space for many years, possibly over a decade. If you guys didn't know, I started my beauty channel back in 2010. So I have over 15 years of makeup palettes to show you guys. This is insane, okay? I was thinking of doing like one big holiday makeup museum video with just all the throwback products I have like in my arsenal. But once I started kind of organizing everything, I realized just the sheer volume of products I have, I couldn't put it all into one video. So this is going to be holiday edition, very appropriate for the time, and I'm so excited about it. There's a few disclaimers I want to get out of the way here at the top of the video, okay? Number one, we're going to be talking about over 100 products in this video. That means this video is going to be long, okay? You clicked on it knowing that this video is like 3 hours long. I really wanted to show you guys every single product. Like I really wanted to talk through everything. I wanted to reminisce with you guys. This is what I'm passionate about. This was my heyday on YouTube. These are the products that really got my passion for beauty started. So it really has a special place in my heart. You know, this is genuinely a passion project for me. And because of that, I didn't want to rush through it. You know, this isn't a video for someone who's just trying to get the info out there. This ain't no TikTok, okay? This is a long feature film for those of you guys who love product like I do. Obviously, if this 3-hour length is too intimidating for you guys, break it up into multiple parts. I will also have this video timestamped for you guys according to brand. I alphabetized this entire video for you to make it easy for you guys to skip to the brands you guys are particularly curious about. Skip over the sections you don't care about, get to the brands you love and want to reminisce with me. I also want to make it super clear that I am very aware of how old some of these products are. We're talking palettes from 2009 and onward. I don't use any of these products anymore. These are specifically here in my collection as collector's pieces. I am a makeup collector, okay? That is, again, where my heart is. So no, I don't use any of this anymore, nor am I going to sell any of this. This is old makeup, okay? It's old makeup that I just wanted to show you guys, especially for those of you guys who, again, just want to live the good old heyday with me. I also feel like I'm going to get this comment a lot, so I just want to answer it here at the top of the video. And that is that a lot of my products look very lightly used. None of these products are going to be used and abused and like, you know, hit pan on. The reason for that is if you guys have been on my channel for years, you know the sheer amount of products that I was trying, testing, and reviewing for you guys. I was literally reviewing multiple products a week, and because of that, I was constantly testing something new. So no single product, especially a limited edition product, ever really got fully used up. I already know that's going to be a conversation in the comments below, and I just want to let you guys know that is why. I'm a collector. These products were limited edition. I bought them to try them and test them to give you guys the information, and then I was on to the next thing. That's kind of the whole point of this job. You're on to the next thing. I think those are all of the disclaimers I wanted to give you guys. Like I said, I am so excited about this video. I hope that it brings back some amazing makeup memories for you guys. Also, if this video brings you guys any ounce of joy and you want to help support my channel, I really would appreciate if you guys subscribed or thumbs up this video, or even leaving a comment on this video. Any type of interaction you can make with my content really does help me out. But without further ado, let's get right into all of the holiday products. I know, you know, we all know that Anastasia has definitely released eyeshadow palettes for the holidays over the years. For some reason, I don't have those with me right now. So we're just gonna do this one Anastasia holiday release that I do have, which is the Glow Kit. This particular Glow Kit was called the Ultimate Glow Kit. It was a limited edition Glow Kit that she released in 2016. And then in terms of the actual inside, this one did retail for $40, which I believe was the price of all of Anastasia's glow kits. Let's go ahead and do some swatches in here of this one. We'll do 4 different ones. Pretty colors, definitely a thinner consistency. And yeah, they kind of go on thinner and a little bit more like glittery than some of the other glow kits. I don't know how well you guys can tell, but these definitely have some like actual chunks of glitter in it, which is interesting because I don't remember any of her other glow kits having the chunkiness. It's possible that was her just trying to do a little bit of a holiday flair, but that is the glow kit from 2016. The next brand we have is theBalm, and theBalm has had some really cute, very interesting holiday releases over the years, and I used to be a big fan of collecting theBalm big palettes like this. This particular palette came out in 2013, and it was a very, very cute Balm Voyage palette. This top part of the palette flips open to reveal 16 different eyeshadows, and the bottom here has 3 different lip and cheek colors. And even back then, theBalm was doing it right. They were covering the creams with a separate flap, so that way the powders didn't get into the creams and make them all nasty. Definitely a color palette that screams 2013. You know, you've got a lot of cool tone neutrals. This was long before something like the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. That palette really took warm tone shadows and made them super, super popular. This was long before that. You've got your classic kind of cool tone neutrals. You've got a few brights in some interesting shades, none of which necessarily easily go together. But I am very interested in the texture of some of these. So let's do some swatches. The mattes feel really creamy and very like pigmented, but this shimmer specifically definitely felt chunky. And yeah, you can probably even see that on the finger. Like this one right here, definitely chunky. Yeah, interesting even going on. Honestly, these mattes kind of hold up. The mattes are really nice and they actually look really smooth, but this shade in particular, definitely chunky. You can see it has that kind of like craft store silver glitter vibe going on. I am kind of curious about these creams too. They don't look, you know, the freshest, obviously, but they're still kind of creamy. Okay, this one actually, ooh no, that is just goop. I probably should not put this on my skin. Oh my gosh, you guys, that looks like honey. Like, look at that. That is goop. Oh goodness. Okay, let's just flatten that out a bit so I can just close this up. Yeah, and they smell like they've gone bad. Obviously, you know, it's been over 10 years. They have gone bad. Okay, in 2015, we got these two theBalm releases, and I was really excited about both of these when they came out. We'll start off with this one. This is the In the Balm of Your Hand palette. This was one of those cool palettes where this front flap had all the powders, but all of these powders were products that were available in other Balm products. For example, you could buy all of these blushes individually as well as this Bahama Mama bronzer, and then all of these shadows were products that were either pulled from other Balm palettes, or this was the Mary Luminizer, which is a full-size available highlighter in the line. I loved that they did this because this really was a greatest hits palette, and this was actually a pretty decent color scheme to get an all-in-one look. And then similar to the last palette, you did have 2 creams over here on this side, which we're not going to swatch those. We learned our lesson the last time. But yeah, this was a really, really good palette for them. I quite enjoyed it. They even had a volume 2, which I don't think I own, but for a 2015 release, I really, really enjoyed this one. And then they also had this, which was the Manizer Sisters little trio. These 3 powders, the Mary Luminizer, the Cindy Luminizer, and the Betty Luminizer, were 3 of the Balm's most popular products, and they released this little holiday palette that had all 3 of them in it. We're definitely going to swatch this. This Mary Luminizer, you guys, that thing took YouTube by storm. Honestly, I would say that the powders still look pretty nice. They're that thick highlighter. They're not like, you know, a powder gelée. You can even just see that it is kind of crumbly. It's just due to the thickness of the powder. I would still say, I mean, again, they are pretty. And honestly, when you blended these onto the skin, they really did look nice. I did think for, again, 2015, this was a standout highlighter. People were going completely feral over Mary Luminizer. That was what everybody wanted. Also, this little highlighter palette only retailed for $29, which was a complete steal for all three of their highlighting powders. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure if these were holiday releases from theBalm or not, but I'm just gonna go ahead and include them here. This is the Alternative Rock Volume 1 and Volume 2 palette. These launched in 2018. I do know they launched towards the end of 2018, so I'm assuming they were a holiday launch. This launch had two palettes that kind of coordinated. You had 6 shadows and 3 face products. And then in the Alternative Rock 2 palette, you had the same layout, 6 shadows, 3 face products, just 2 different color schemes. Both super pretty. You can see Alternative Rock 2, which is this one over here, is definitely a little darker, definitely more warm toned, more suited towards my skin tone, I would say. And the Alternative Rock 1 was a little bit more cool tone, more purpley in tone, and honestly, I think they were both really pretty. And for $27.50 each, I mean, theBalm has just insane packaging. They think through their themes super well. The actual formulation of the products is always really good. I really do like theBalm products overall. Okay, next up, Bare Minerals. I know Bare Minerals has had some holiday products out there. I have also owned some Bare Minerals holiday that I may have decluttered over the years. This here is an 8-pan shadow palette from them that came out in 2012. Okay, so this is a little vintage. This one is called the Ready Eyeshadow 8.0 The Star Treatment. I remember loving the color scheme of this one. Yeah, looks pretty ordinary, don't you think? I can't believe that this is what I was going crazy for back in 2012. I do have to try this shadow though. This looks so pretty. It is so smooth. We also have to swatch this rose gold one and maybe this shimmery one up here. We just gotta swatch a few. Yeah, I mean, those are gorge. I'm not even gonna lie. I think the formula does hold up. It is a thicker texture. You could see that. I mean, you can see how much kind of flaking is there just because of that thicker texture. But you know what? It's still stunning. It's still super metallic, super pigmented. Look at this shade. If this was launched in a palette right now, I would go absolutely ballistic over it. It's giving Natasha Denona gold palette vibes. It is so stunning. I think Bare Minerals really did have something going for it with this Ready eyeshadow formula. This was a stunning palette, and for a 2012 release, really pretty. Benefit is another brand that I know I have a handful of holiday products from them, but this is the one that I could find easily. This is the Cheeky Sweet Spot cheek palette. This came out in 2014. You guys, this was such a good deal back in 2014 because this was only $36. And number one, look at the cuteness of this, okay? This is an actual like tin packaging, so freaking cute. I love how Benefit does go all out with their holiday launches. This is adorable. You cannot tell me otherwise. I love this. And when you pop it open, this had 6 full size, at least I believe these are full size, of their cheek products, as well as one little cream WhatsApp highlighter and a little brush. What the heck? This is so freaking cute. Let me try to get this little plastic off. And these are the older Benefit box blushes. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with like the Rockateur, the Sugar Bomb, the Coralista. I don't think any of those are still available in the Benefit line. These are OG products. Oh, they're so cute. And I remember each of these individually being almost $30. So for $36 and you got this whole palette, that was kind of a steal. Okay, you guys, the commemorative Bite Beauty holiday lip value sets. You guys know how big of a fan I was of Bite Beauty. I was a complete stan. The amount of Bite Beauty lipsticks, lip products, lip glosses, lip crayons that I had in my collection was obscene. And I always loved when Bite Beauty would come out with these little sets. Each of these sets retailed for $25. This was their 2016 holiday launch. This one here was called the Perfect Bite little set, and this had 4 of their Amuse Bouche lipsticks in it. Let's open it up. Oh my goodness, this is so cute. Oh, the little Bite Beauty tin, and I even have this little piece of vellum still on it, and you can see the 4 lipsticks here. We're just gonna pull a few out here. I don't think we'll do like a full swatch because I know I did a video on this. Because these have that soft touch packaging to them, you will see once we get to some NARS products that this soft touch packaging does not age well. It starts getting like sticky. There's something about that soft touch that either starts breaking down or I don't know what happens, but it literally starts getting really sticky, and that is happening to these, which is kind of surprising because while obviously 2016, it is an older lipstick, it's not crazy old compared to some of the other stuff I have in my collection. I think this was the lightest lipstick in the bunch, but yeah. This is what they look like. So cute. But again, this soft touch packaging, it does not age well. Here's another one of the lipsticks. Oh yeah, that is a pink. That is a pink. Ooh. Okay, I just dropped it. We just smushed it on my floor a little bit. No problem. Let's just do a little swatchy swatch. I mean, it's creamy, but it smells bad. Like this has actually gone bad for sure. So yeah, we'll just, we'll just put that away. Super cute little set though. I mean, this is just so nostalgic for me. And then in terms of the crayon set, this one is called the Best Bite Redux set. And this has their matte cream lip crayons in it. Same little kit here. Adorable. I do remember that Bite Beauty used to do brighter or darker and more fun colors in the crayons, even over the lipstick sometimes. So let's see if that's accurate. This soft touch is kind of breaking down on me. I can feel that. Oh yeah. That is a fun color. Let's do a little swatch. Still opaque. Still really nice looking. Honestly, it doesn't smell horrible. The lipsticks definitely smell bad. This crayon doesn't smell bad. I still wouldn't use it, but it doesn't smell bad. So I don't know. I think this one aged okay. Let's see what other color we pulled out here. Oh, kind of similar. A kind of reddish raspberry, a little deeper than the last one, but also really pretty. Also doesn't smell bad, but you can't get this formula anymore anyways. Bite Beauty is gone, but these little sets are just so cute. The one Bobbi Brown holiday quote unquote palette that I have is actually a face palette. This is called the Bobbi To Glow Shimmer Brick Palette. This also came out in 2016. I do remember doing a review of this, and you get 3 different shimmer bricks in here. The Bobbi Brown shimmer bricks are literally one of the staples in the Bobbi Brown line, and especially at this time, this was kind of rare. She never really released a shimmer brick palette like this before. At least I had never seen one. While this did retail for $69, it's a little bit of a splurge. It still wasn't something that we had seen from the Bobbi Brown line very often. So let's do some swatches. The shimmer brick formula is so interesting because it is a thinner formula, and you can see that going on. It doesn't really chunk up like some of the other ones. Like, look how smooth of a formula that is. Honestly, these kind of slay. I mean, these are still really, really good. I would say I definitely prefer this type of formula, especially nowadays, over something like the Balm Mary Luminizer. The Balm luminizing powders are thicker. They're a little bit like chunkier, and they're kind of more flaky. And honestly, they were really popular powders at the time, but I have definitely aged out of them, especially with my 32-year-old skin. Something that's more lightweight like this, but something that still delivers the color, the pigment, and the shimmer is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really considering pulling this into my current makeup collection and using these because I really like these. Such good formulas overall. So 2 thumbs up for this Bobbi Brown palette. The final brand for the bees is Burberry, and this is the one Burberry holiday product that I have. This came out in their holiday collection of 2017. This is an illuminating powder that they called Silver Shimmer, and I loved products like this. Clearly I got it at Nordstrom, but I absolutely loved collecting a limited edition holiday launch from a brand that I knew was a little luxe. It was just a little bit of a bougie moment, and just the Burberry packaging is stunning. stunning. Oh my gosh, it's so mirrored and reflective. But look at that. You've got the Burberry logo here, and then this is the back. I literally don't think I've opened this since 2017. Oh my gosh, that is so pretty. Look at that highlighter. You know when highlighters used to have that little overspray on them, so you just didn't even want to touch it? It almost feels too special for me to swatch it even now. Do I swatch it? Should I swatch this little corner or should I leave it? Oh my goodness. I don't know. I'm having like a little bit of an inner dilemma going on here. This just looks so pretty. Okay, I'll just swatch the corner because I'm just going to be keeping this in my collection anyway. I'm so watching this corner for you guys. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that is so pretty. Let's actually get that swatched on my arm. That is really pretty. This is like a kind of baked gelée formula. And I'm going to be totally honest, the camera is not doing this any justice. This is one of those like baked gelée formulas that kind of has a flip on it. It looks like a silver, like it definitely looks like a cool tone silver highlighter, but as you move your wrist, it almost flips to a gold. Like it's almost a silver to gold duochrome in a way. So freaking stunning. Holy moly. Honestly, I didn't think Burberry had it in them. This is so pretty. This product retailed for $68, and for a super special highlighter like this, honestly, kind of worth it. Okay, how many of you guys remember this brand right here? This was called Cargo. I remember Sephora used to sell Cargo, and if I'm not totally wrong, I want to say Kohl's sold Cargo as well. I could be wrong on that, but I know for sure this palette was sold at Sephora for $29 back in 2009. This was one of my very, very first eyeshadow palettes that I bought back in the day. Again, 2009, and this was the Cargo Hands of Hope palette. This made me so excited back in 2009. Look at this palette. If this palette launched today, can we even go over the sheer number of criticisms that this thing would have? All of the shadows have the same shimmery finish. There's not enough texture in here. The colors are random. There's a lot of wasted space. Why is it this big of a palette? Guys, this is my hand. Why is it this big of a palette for 9 shadows? But you guys, this thing, stunning. At the time, I was so excited about this palette because it had colors in it. And you know what? For 2009, the textures are not horrible. For 2025, the textures are definitely not great. The pigmentation, not great. But for 2009, this was the best we had. I'm telling you, this kind of chunkiness, this very, very mildly pigmented blue, and this interesting purpley type color. This is what we were working with, okay? This palette was all the rage in 2009. I was so excited to have this. This is such a terrific example of how makeup ages over the years. I'm really happy to still own this because I know Cargo as a brand wasn't around very much longer after 2009. I don't know exactly when they were gone, but you guys, I mean, as a palette for 29 bucks, this was terrific at the time. I have one Chanel eyeshadow quad that I could find. This released in holiday of 2014. This quad was $70 back in 2014. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a really pretty palette. I probably haven't even opened this since 2014, but this is called the Rêve d'Orient. And are we ready for the grand reveal? Oh yeah, look at this quad. Oh my gosh. Does Chanel do stuff like this anymore? This genuinely looks really, really special. This really pretty star embossing. Oh my goodness. Is the color scheme special? No, but it looks so pretty. Are we gonna swatch this 10-year-old Chanel quad? I think we are. Let's go in, you guys. Okay, this one feels a little gritty, but I kind of expected that. The rest of them feel somewhat smooth. Ooh, okay. Little flaky, but you know, that also could be the embossing. This one does look a little bit patchy. You can see that. But this one here, it could just be that embossing that got it to be a little flaky. You know what, you guys? Not bad. Not bad, not great maybe for $70, but not bad. Obviously, we'd be lying if we said it wasn't the embossing and just the fact that it's a limited edition Chanel holiday quad. That's the reason you pay the money for this. Is it unique? No. Even for back in 2014, this was not unique, but it was special. Another holiday quad from 2014. Apparently, this was my jam back in 2014. I was picking up all of these specialty little quads. This one is the Charlotte Tilbury. This is called the Fallen Angel quad. This quad retailed for $65, and even that outer packaging, so pretty. And let's open this. Again, haven't opened this in 10 years. Okay, this looks way too similar to the Chanel quad. Are you kidding me right now? The Chanel quad and this one? What the heck? Okay, you guys, this is too freaking funny. I mean, they're obviously not exactly the same, but the celestial theme and the overall color scheme of them look way too similar. Clearly there was a theme going on with the luxury brands in 2014, okay? This must have been very trendy. That is so funny. And you can tell that this is kind of that baked gelée formula. So pretty. I believe this palette was a colored Raine holiday, more like a New Year's palette that they released. This launched in late 2017, like 2017 going into 2018. This was the Cheers to the Beauty palette. RIP to colored Raine as well, because you guys, they did some insane eyeshadow palettes. This one is really pretty. I will say again, my eye goes to the amount of empty space that's just all up over here, but as a palette, this is very pretty. I have to stick my finger in some of these. Like, oh, this one is butter. Holy moly, that is absolute butter. Look at this one. Oh my goodness, you guys, colored Raine does butter. Oh my goodness, what? Yeah, oh my gosh. I definitely picked up too much of these shades just because of how dense and pigmented they are, but look at that. I mean, these are straight up intense foil shades. This would drive us feral in today's day and age. It doesn't quite have that scattered sparkle as something like the Patrick Ta eyeshadow duos, but in terms of that background, like that really shiny background, this had it. And considering this is over a 5-year-old palette, you guys, this is so good. So good. Colored Raine. Ugh. They really had some of the best eyeshadow palettes. Okay, I've got 2 Dior Quints. Dior doesn't usually do quads. They always do their eyeshadow palettes in palettes of 5. And I've got one that they released for fall of 2013, as well as one that they released for fall of 2014. So let's do the 2013 one first, which interestingly enough is this really cute, amazing packaging. And for 2014, they released this packaging, which in my opinion is a downgrade. This one here for fall of 2013, this was called the Mystic Metallics Bon Etoile. And I know, oh yeah, I knew this was gonna be pretty. I mean, Dior Quints, especially their limited edition holiday ones back in the day, were incredible. This is so freaking pretty. I don't even know if I want to swatch this. I've definitely got this collector mentality going on with these now. Like, this one is just insanely gorge. Okay, I'll swatch because I want to swatch this one, and I kind of want to swatch this olive green one. So you know what? We'll swatch. Okay, for Dior, I mean, hello, we've got pigment going on for sure. Okay, not bad. You guys, that is not bad at all. And don't get me wrong, you're paying Dior prices. This was a $61 quint, but I would say that the pigmentation is there, the shimmer is there, the uniqueness of the color scheme is there, especially for a luxury brand. So you know what? I'm all for this one. And then for the quint they released in fall of 2014, they actually launched this one for $60, which is $1 less than the 2013 quad. And this one is called Cour Canage. queer canage, I don't know, but also pretty, but more of your classic Dior embossing. In this one, this definitely feels like a classic Dior quint, in my opinion. Again, we'll do a few swatches here. I think that these are still really pretty. I mean, luxury eyeshadows in general are going to be a little bit more muted, not quite as metallic. You know, they're no colored Raine eyeshadow formula, but they are pretty and wearable. They definitely give a very wearable eye look. And overall, the color scheme of this one, super pretty and wearable, very, very fall. I have one of the Estee Lauder Pure Color 5-pan eyeshadow palettes. This came out in fall of 2012. Just to put it into perspective for you guys, this is over 12 years old, okay? 2012, I know, doesn't feel like that long ago, but it actually was. And this was in the shade Violet Underground. It was in their Cyber Metallic formula, which I remember absolutely obsessing over. Oh, this is so pretty. I have not opened this in a very, very long time. I didn't realize they switched the color of this packaging. It's this gorgeous violet color. This is going to be so pretty. Oh my gosh. There's your little spoiler teaser of the inside. But here we go. That was a little dramatic, but also, what the heck? This is freaking gorge. You guys, I'm not swatching this one. I'm sorry. It's just not happening. I haven't swatched it in 12 years and it's not happening for you guys today, but just soak in this prettiness. Why don't we see stuff like this from Estee Lauder anymore? This was insane. Gorgeous. I mean, Estee Lauder with the hot pink and this insanely bright blue, absolutely stunning. And the embossing, like, this was a whole vibe. I don't remember how limited this particular product was, but I mean, this was clearly a collector's piece. And me, the collector, is just gonna pop this back in the box and pretend that I'm just never gonna swatch this, because I probably won't. How many of you guys remember the brand, the Estee Edit by Estee Lauder? This was a Sephora exclusive brand. I swear they had like Kendall Jenner or someone as the face of that brand. It was in and out of Sephora in, you know, probably like a few years, maybe 2 years, I would say. But I do remember this holiday launch. I want to say I even reviewed it on my channel. These two palettes came in a set, and this was called the Gritty and Glow Magnetic Eye and Face Palettes. And you got both of these palettes for $58. And this was a holiday 2016 launch, okay? So this one here, I want to say this was the face palette. Yeah, this was the face palette. So you can see you got a few highlighters. I think all of these face powders actually have some amount of shimmer in them. The two blushes are very, very light. I primarily think this is essentially just a highlighter palette, if we're being honest. Lighter skin tones could probably use some of these as a blush topper, but they all have a really pretty shimmer. And then this other palette was their eyeshadow palette, which I have to say, kind of pretty. Maybe not an all-in-one palette, but especially these two shades here, I do think are kind of pretty. Let's go in for some swatches here. We'll swatch like 4 of these face products. The texture is very, very silky. And yeah, even like going on, they definitely have a little bit of a thicker formula, as you guys can see. And I'll be honest, some of these shades might not be the most different, especially on the skin, but I remember enjoying this palette when it came out. Let's do some of these eyeshadows too. Of course, we got to swatch these fun colors. Oh yeah. Again, the texture is thicker, but I mean, they're smooth and they go on nice. And this gold, again, if this came out in an eyeshadow palette right now, we would be just going gaga over this like coppery gold. Very pretty. I mean, really interesting launch. I want to say it wasn't too long after this launch that the brand went out of business. So clearly this launch, I guess, didn't go as well as maybe they had thought, but I don't know. It was kind of a time. I will admit it was kind of cool that Estee Lauder tried to do something different. And even though it didn't work, they did try to do something different with this one. How many of you guys remember the Fenty holiday palette of 2017? This was the Fenty Galaxy eyeshadow palette, and I'm pretty sure when this palette came out, it was the first year that Fenty Beauty had just launched. I want to say the brand launched in like August or September, and she released this palette that winter. Am I wrong on that timeline? For some reason, I don't think I'm wrong because I remember she did not have eyeshadows when this palette launched. It was like the first eyeshadow product we had seen from Fenty. And my goodness, if we're talking like Galaxy eyeshadow palette, this is it. The packaging is a 10 out of 10. And even honestly, the shadows in here are so pretty. It is very much giving Urban Decay Moon Dust vibes. Like in terms of the texture of these shadows, we have to swatch some. Swatch this one, this one, this one. It's definitely like a slightly drier, more scattered shimmery finish. I definitely need to get some of this glitter off of my arm soon. But yeah, even like when you swatch it, you can see it's like thicker and not fully opaque. You guys can see that. I will say the Moon Dust might be just a little bit thinner in texture. These do have a little bit of a thicker vibe. Maybe not my favorite in terms of a shimmer finish, I will admit. They look pretty, but I will say they don't necessarily look expensive. There's something about, especially some of the shimmer shadows we're seeing on the market nowadays, that does look really expensive, and this doesn't really give that. Not totally surprising because you're getting so many shadows for only $59. This was kind of a steal of a deal for a palette. But yeah, it is giving $59, even in terms of the quality, I would say. Okay, you guys can see that, especially back in the day, I definitely loved a specialty holiday product. And honestly, nothing is more specialty than the Guerlain Meteorites. They release a limited edition holiday meteorites powder every holiday season, I think. This one here with the gold bow came out in 2014, and this one here in the box, which we will unbox together, came out in 2015. Let's start with the bow one because the one in the box is so stunning. There's a reason I kept it in the box, but this one is very pretty. This retailed for $60 back in 2014, and packaging wise, so cute. I mean, I love the little beveled edges. I love the bow on top. It is etched with the Guerlain name, and it is very pretty. If you guys don't know what the meteorites are, they are that product that is essentially the little balls of powder. So yeah, this is what the holiday 2014 one looks like. I mean, I love the little gold puff and the powder. And I mean, these powders absolutely are very heavily floral scented. Oh my gosh, these are an experience. If you've never used one before, they're definitely a interesting, very like luxe vintagey experience. There's something about just this overall packaging and the way the powder is in those little balls. It feels very vintage. Like I could see Marilyn Monroe having this on her little makeup vanity, you know? But then we've got the Meteorite of 2015. Okay, this one retailed for $80, so $20 more, and I will just show you why. I don't remember this product being this stunning when I bought it, and once I unboxed it, I was like, oh, there's a reason I kept it in the box. Oh my gosh, do not tell me this is not the most gorgeous packaging you've ever seen on a makeup product. Look at the top of this. It looks like a Christmas ornament, you guys. This is freaking stunning. And then actually opening it up, oh my gosh, it even has a little mirror on the inside. And then there are your little powder balls, but this one also has little stars in it. Kind of shaking it so you guys can see the little stars, but do you see how they're balls and stars? Oh, this was stunning. I will say I haven't necessarily kept up with the Guerlain Meteorites powders over the years past 2015, so there very well could have been another special packaging that I missed out on. The reason I didn't keep collecting these is because I was strictly buying them for the collectability of it. I don't use these products, obviously. I mean, I still had this one in the box, but if you're a collector, I mean, these are so collectible. Okay, moving on to the H's. I have 3 of the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit palettes. We've got the original one that came out in 2015. We've got the one that came out in 2017 and the volume 4, which came out in 2018. This is volume 1, 3, and 4. I did not purchase volume 2, which now in the collector's mentality of it all, I kind of regret, but I remember not purchasing volume volume 2 because I thought it was going to be too light for me and it looked too similar to the original one, which we'll go ahead and start off with here. This here is the original Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Palette. This retailed for $80 when it launched, which was expensive for sure. And I want to say all of the powders in here are a part of the Hourglass permanent lineup. I don't think any of these were limited to this palette, but it was just such a good deal because Hourglass had never released these powders as anything besides full-sized powders. So to get 6 different options, all from the permanent lineup in one palette, was just such a unique concept for them at the time. And again, this was back in 2015, okay? So we're talking close to 10 years ago now. But you could see, I mean, this was definitely a light skin friendly palette. Hourglass has definitely upped their game and released more options during the holidays nowadays with more medium to tan to even deeper color options. But this was the OG. And then, like I said, I didn't buy volume 2, which came out in 2016, but this was volume 3 that came out in 2017. And this one I purchased because it did have deeper blush tones. These two are so good for my skin. This one is extraordinarily light, but it's a pretty highlighter on me. And then of course you've got your, your token lighter shades because it is an Hourglass palette at the end of the day. And then finally, this was the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Volume 4 palette, which came out in 2018. And I love the packaging color of this, by the way. This gorgeous, like light pinkish metallic shade is stunning. And here was the palette that came out in 2018. Again, you've got some more color in here than we did in the previous 2 palettes for sure. And even the actual finishing powders, obviously this one is light, but these ones actually have a lot more color to them and can work on my skin tone. So this palette overall was really good. I could see they were going in a good direction with making their palettes a little bit more skin tone friendly, if you will. But yeah, that's kind of the evolution of the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit palettes during their first few years of launches. And they never increased the prices of these. From 2015, 2017, and 2018, these were all $80 palettes. Now I think they retail for like $90 if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, these were kind of expensive palettes to begin with, so it is what it is. Okay, I've got a couple of IT Cosmetics holiday launches here. We've got their 2014 holiday launch, their 2016 launch, and the 2017 launch. So let's start off with the 2014 launch, okay? This is a palette I feel like a lot of you guys have probably seen. This was their Naturally Pretty Celebration palette. The IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette was a very popular permanent palette of theirs. And so during the holiday, they came out with this variation of it. Again, this came out in 2014. It retailed for $42. And let's just take a little peeky peek at this palette. Every single shade in here, except for this one, is matte. This was essentially the first IT Cosmetics all matte eyeshadow palette, at least that I remember. And for a matte neutral palette, it had a decent variety of shades, but this is very 2014. Like I said, we did not have warm eyeshadows hardly at all. It does lean very cool toned, which was very of the time. And this transforming ombre shade was essentially your shimmer shade. That's what you would use to top off any of these if you wanted to transform it into something shimmery. So this was the IT Cosmetics holiday palette that I have from 2016. This was a QVC exclusive and it was called the Most Wished For Holiday Palette. This was only $50 and you guys will see why. This is definitely giving, it's one of those super mass produced, no name branded palettes. I don't know who on the IT Cosmetics team thought this was a great idea at the time, but I know this sold really well. You've got a lot of eyeshadows here. You've got all of their Bye Bye Under Eye concealers. You've got a cream highlighter, a powder highlighter, their bronzer, finishing powder, 3 blushes, and lip colors. And to be honest, if these weren't branded with the IT Cosmetics logo, this would absolutely look like a cheapy palette that you gift to a 10-year-old. So again, kind of surprised that It Cosmetics went this route for QVC, but I guess they tried it. I don't think they ever came out with anything quite like this again, understandably, but yeah, this was the Holiday 2016 QVC palette. And then I've got their 2017 holiday palette. This was the It Girl Your Life Changing Eye and Cheek palette. And I just have to say, the bedazzle that is on this palette is insane. I love this. Completely obsessed, okay? And just the inside of this was really pretty too. It Cosmetics was known for their little ombre blushes that they have here. And then you get 8 different shadows. Again, very It Cosmetics, very neutral, very pretty. And then you've got a couple of, I don't know, these are still powder shadows here, but I guess you're supposed to use them maybe as like eyeshadow bases. I don't know. I mean, they're both very, very light, pretty matte shadows, you know, but yeah, they're, you know, they're a little thicker mattes. But yeah, I mean, the upgrade from 2016 to 2017 here, just insane. This is so pretty. Okay, welcome to one of Ishani's all-time favorite brands that released the coolest holiday palettes. If you guys have been on my channel for a while, which I know is a lot of you guys, you have absolutely seen me talk about, review, and rave on a lot of these palettes over the years. This is all of the Kat Von D holiday palettes that I have collected over my time on YouTube. I have the one from 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017 over here, and 2018. These are some of my most prized possessions, okay? So let's start with the 2013 palette. This palette was the very, very first holiday palette that Kat Von D launched for her brand. I don't know if the Kat Von D brand launched in 2013 or 2012, but this palette came out in 2013. It retailed for $55, and I was so excited to get my hands on it. I have to be honest, I want to do a full video just talking about the Kat Von D brand as a whole, because this was one of the best brands at Sephora at the time. In my opinion, it was one of the brands that really revolutionized the makeup industry, especially the online makeup industry. And then this was also one of the first brands to get completely canceled and essentially booted off the social media space, but we'll talk about that later. Let's just talk about this palette first. This palette is called the Spellbinding Eyeshadow Book, and it does have this little plastic flap on it, but you can see these are all of the shades. You got 24 different eyeshadows in here, and the way they were separated out was kind of in duos. Looking at this layout now, it definitely looks like a disjointed full color palette, but as duos, they do make sense. I'm gonna go in and swatch some of the more eye-catching ones that I'm seeing, and yeah, I mean, texturally, they feel like 2013 eyeshadows, but you know what? Pigmentation, not half bad. And yeah, I mean, the pigment is a little patchy, and they are that thicker formula, especially a shade like this one here. If this was launched in today's day and age, it would probably be a little bit of a thinner texture, but you know what? Not horrible. This one might be a little horrible, but overall, not horrible. So yeah, this was Kat Von D's first holiday palette that she launched. Next up, we have the holiday palette of 2014. This was called the Star Studded Eyeshadow Book. I do remember doing a review on this palette back in the day. And then in terms of the layout here, you can see very similar. Instead of the duos, they've divided them up into quads. So showing you a little closer, each little quadrant of 4 is sort of split up into its own color story. But again, as a whole palette, a little disjointed, but overall, I'm gonna swatch some of these. They do look really pretty. Ooh, we gotta swatch this matte orange here too. I mean, okay, this one sucks. This one absolutely sucks. I don't know if that was just an age thing. I mean, do keep in mind, This is old. What the hell is that shadow though? Honestly, that was a bad one. These other ones swatch out really nicely though. Maybe not that one, but okay. The mattes, let's just put it this way. The two mattes swatch out really nicely. This one is absolute hot garbage and this one is average garbage. It is so interesting to me how these types of palettes were literally so exciting back in the day. In 2014, this palette retailed for $55 and this was the apple of our eyes. This was what we literally counted down for. We were excited for this. I want to say that this holiday palette of 2015 might have been Kat Von D's most iconic holiday palette launch. This is the Mi Vida Loca Remix palette. I'll be honest, even when this palette came out, I didn't think it was going to be like the most iconic Kat Von D holiday palette, but this one is stunning. It essentially looks like a vinyl or like a record, and when you pull it out, I mean, this is like the whole color wheel. Again, if we were to see a palette like this now, I don't think it would be such a hot seller, but back in 2015, rainbow palettes were all the rage. And the fact that you could get some gorgeous bright pops of color and then some really unique at the time warm tones with like a whole little inner circle of your quote unquote basic neutral colors, it was pretty revolutionary. Let's go in and swatch some of these. I just want to swatch the bright colors, obviously. Let's see how this yellow over here swatches too, because yellow is kind of a color that could be iffy. I mean, yeah, these look pretty decent. Okay, I do see, well, I don't know. Those last two seemed a little bit more disappointing, but these two actually are really decent. And this is kind of what we expected back in 2015. So yeah, overall, again, the color palette. It was the color palette that everybody loved. And this Mi Vida Loca Remix palette retailed for $59. The next holiday palette of 2016, this was her Metal Matte palette. And I do remember doing a review of this palette as well. I was very excited about this because I do love Kat Von D's artistry and the way she designed this palette. If you can see, you read the words upright and you can read metal, and then when you flip it upside down, you read matte. That is just so cool to me. I thought this was such a unique idea, and then obviously, you know, expected from the name. You've got a whole row of metal shadows up top, and then you've got a whole row of matte shadows at the bottom. Nowadays, I will admit, I don't love the combination of the round pans with these rectangular pans, but again, at the time, I was in love with this palette. Let's do some swatches. I always go for the shimmers. I should do a few mattes too. Let's do this peachy matte. That one is, whoa, very smooth. Ooh, and I have a little fuzzy from my makeup wipe, but let's do some swatches here. Yeah, these swatch out really pretty. Again, it's definitely giving an upgraded formula here. You can tell that Kat Von D has improved her formula from the previous few palettes to this palette here. Even the metals, they are a thicker metal finish, you know, again, maybe not something that would be super popular nowadays, but back in 2016, this was it. This was one of the creme de la creme holiday palettes. Again, I can't get over this metal matte. I think that is so cool. As for holiday of 2017, we had this very unique palette. This was her Saint and Sinner palette, and this one retailed for $62. And again, I just loved this. So this one opened like this, like two little doors. It almost looks like, you know, like a doorway of a church or something. And when you open it up, the inside of the palette is so pretty. You've got this right side, which is super fun and colorful. And then the left side, while it does have some color in it, it's definitely more neutral. I always go for these goldy colors. I don't know. We have to swatch this one. Let's swatch this one. Let's swatch this purple up here. And I guess we'll do this pinky color here. Oh, I just have glitter everywhere, you guys. I'm trying to wipe it off to the best of my ability, but my goodness, all of these swatches. And again, you can see the formula has definitely been improved from this palette. I mean, again, it is a thicker formula, but really pretty. And honestly, the shine on some of these would absolutely kill in some of the eyeshadow palettes we have out today. I will say that this palette of 2017 might have been the last major Kat Von D palette released before before the brand kind of took a turn. This final Kat Von D palette that I have here, this I don't believe was a holiday palette. I have it pegged as a May 2018 launch, but I just wanted to show it to you just to kind of show you the final evolution of Kat Von D as a brand. This is the 10-year anniversary eyeshadow palette, and I will admit this packaging, while sleeker, it also feels, you know, more basic. And then in here, again, you can see they've stuck to that rectangular pan shape for this palette. But to be honest, nothing incredibly unique in here. We've definitely seen all of these colors done from Kat Von D over the course of all of those previous holiday palettes. And like I said, this was the last Kat Von D palette I ever bought from the brand. After this, I was kind of done with the brand. So that's kind of why I wanted to show you this final one here. This was May of 2018. Okay, I have one holiday product from Laura Mercier. I don't know if Laura Mercier ever released holiday eyeshadow palettes, but I do have this one highlighter palette from her. This is called the Fall in Love Face Illuminator Collection. And in here, you get 4 shades of these really pretty, almost like the baked gelée highlighters that she has. This palette came out in 2016. It retailed for $58, which definitely isn't cheap, but I do remember these highlighters being pretty expensive full size. Let's do some swatches, shall we? I really did enjoy this texture and this formula, and I like how this palette has really good shades in it. I mean, like, look at that. It is so pretty. And like I said, texture wise, these are kind of like the baked gelée powders. So they're a thinner texture. You can even see them going on. They don't really chunk up at all. And they're so easy to blend. They just lay on the skin so nicely. I really love these powders. I really loved these highlighting products. And to get 4 different shades in a pretty good color range here, I thought this was a pretty good palette. Okay, you guys, we are now jumping into Lorac. Okay, Lorac was another big player in the holiday game space. Obviously, I know a lot of us have seen, maybe a lot of us have owned one of the Lorac Mega Pro palettes, but what you might not know is that this was kind of the evolution of Lorac. This was new age Lorac holiday, okay? They started off with some interesting palettes. We had full train cases, like stuff like this. We had things like this intense, glittery, just bedazzled vanity setup. Let's move all this out of the way and let's start with the original Lorac holiday product that I purchased back in 2010. This was a Sephora exclusive holiday set of 2010, okay? We're talking almost 15 years ago. And this was called the Holiday Box Office Sensation, and it retailed for $56. And yeah, it has a handle on it. I mean, we're talking, this is a full vanity case, okay? And then in order to open this, you just pop this little button off and then boom, you've got a full vanity. Under the top flap, you've got 18 eyeshadows here. And then when you flip this open, you've got another set of 18 shadows, okay? The bottom layer has some more colorful shades, it looks like. Ooh, we have to be careful with this, okay? The cardboard is kind of falling apart a little bit. And then, oh yeah, it does flip out more. I thought it did. We've got 8 lip colors and 4 blushes. Nothing is more vintage or holiday Lorac makeup than this set right here, you guys. I'm gagged over this right now. I don't know the last time I've opened this set up. I just really wanted to show this to you guys. I'm sure many of you were not even in the makeup space when this came out. 2010 was a very long time ago. I would love to know how many of you guys remember this. I'm so curious. Okay, and then the following year, 2011, that's when we got this. This is the Bejeweled Day and Night jewelry box. This came out of holiday of 2011, and this retailed for $56, okay? You've got a similar kind of layout. It's another vanity case, but as you can see, this just deposits glitter everywhere. Can you guys see my floor here? Everything. has glitter on it because of this, including my hands, okay? Everything has glitter on it. But opening up this top little flap here, you've got a full-sized bronzer and 2 lip glosses. And then instead of this one having wings, it actually has drawers, and the drawers pop open to reveal individual palettes and eyeliners. This is so odd. We have to test this eyeliner here. This Lorac pencil liner came out in 2011. You know what, guys? Kind of creamy. Not gonna lie. Wouldn't use it on my eyes, obviously, but not a horrible liner. I really thought this was gonna be dried out, just garbage, but it's not too bad. And then in terms of the actual eyeshadow palettes, we've got this one here, which has 16 different shadows and a blush. Honestly, these kind of look pretty. They're very reminiscent of those Mega Pro, even in terms of the pan size. Let's give these a swatch. I don't think they're quite as bad as I thought they would be. Again, this was a 2011 release. Not too bad, huh? I mean, yeah, this one's a little chunky. It's a little chunker, but not too bad. So that was that first drawer. And then you've also got this bottom drawer here, which has the same layout. Another eyeshadow palette here, which again, 16 shades, 1 blush. We'll just leave this one as is with, you know, all the glitter. Look at that chunk of glitter. I mean, this glitter literally is everywhere. I have literally had to quarantine this box separate from everything else in my house because it is making an absolute mess. Yeah, look at this. It's snowing, you guys. It's absolutely snowing, but this was the Lorac Holiday Palette of 2011. Okay, and then we are getting into what everybody has been waiting for, the Lorac Mega Pro palettes. These palettes came out between the years of 2014 and 2017. You've got the original Mega Pro, which came out in 2014. Mega Pro 2 was 2015. Mega Pro 3 over here was 2016. And Mega Pro 4 was 2017. What a dream, you guys. I love this little layout here. The Mega Pro palettes were such a time on YouTube. I reviewed every single one of these, I believe. I believe I reviewed Mega Pro 4 as well, but I know for sure I reviewed these 3. It was just a time, all right? So let's talk about Mega Pro 1 here. This is what it looked like. This palette was near impossible to get when it launched, and here's what it looks like. If you guys have never seen a Lorac Mega Pro palette before, the whole point of these palettes is that it typically had 1 row of mattes and 1 row of shimmers. And when they did the Mega Pro, there were 2 rows of mattes and 2 rows of shimmers. Again, looking at this palette now, it does look very 2014. Like I said, we had not experienced Anastasia Modern Renaissance. We had not experienced warm toned palettes. So a lot of the neutrals here definitely lean cool, but overall this was just such a moment. It was such a moment. I'll leave this open so we can just compare all 4 of them next to each other. Here's Mega Pro 2, which again came out in 2015, and this one had more, I don't want to even say jewel tones. I feel like I said jewel tones at the time, but realistically, it was just a little bit more color, which I guess was a little bit more jewel toned, but you even had some purples in here, which we didn't have in the original. But again, 2 rows of mattes, 2 rows of shimmers. Again, such a revolutionary palette at the time. Okay, and we'll put him back in his spot. And then this was Mega Pro 3. I was always a little nervous about the packaging of this one being that matte white color, and the inside of this one I will say might be my favorite in terms of color scheme. This color palette is giving a lot more saturation. We're getting a lot more mid-tone neutrals. We're getting a lot more depth in these colors. Even these shimmers I remember being just so nice, and the mattes have always been really good in these Lorac palettes. So yeah, Mega Pro 3 might have been my favorite one of all 4 of them. Okay, let's place that one under here. And then as far as Mega Pro 4. I love the color of this one, so pretty. And honestly, Mega Pro 4, I feel like they really were trying to do something different than the other 3. Ooh, you can see the problem with these light toned palettes here. They get a little messy, but by the time they got to Mega Pro 4, I really feel like they were trying to incorporate more pastels. They were trying to do something different to even justify coming out with this palette, because at this point there was no reason, absolutely no reason to release more neutrals. So I can see why they went this route, but I can also see why this was the last time they did a Mega Pro palette, because honestly, I don't think this one sold too well despite it being different than the other 3, just because it's not a neutral palette. And there we have it. Those are all 4 of the Lorac Mega Pro palettes, all next to each other. This overview just makes me happy. I mean, this is my heyday on YouTube. This is what I lived for. This is what so many of us lived for. So this just makes me so happy to see. In the midst of those Mega Pro palettes, we did have some other limited edition Lorac holiday type launches. This is one that I wanted to show you guys. This was their 20th anniversary alter ego lipstick and lip gloss set. This set launched at the end of 2015 during Lorac's 20th anniversary. And you guys, this was such a cute set. I mean, I even kept this little card that came with it that said, "Thank you, Loracsters, for helping us reach our 20th anniversary. XO Carol." Yeah, I really took care of this kit, as you guys can see. But in this kit, we had 10 full-size alter ego lipsticks and 10 full-size alter ego glosses. And yeah, I mean, you got this entire set for $75, which was a pretty good deal considering you're literally getting 20 lip products for Lorac's 20th anniversary. And like I said, this came out at the end of 2015. So I just wanted to show that to you guys. Another little palette I have, which I want to say came out during the holiday collection of 2016. This is a little blush palette called Cue the Confetti Highlighter and Blush Palette. In this palette, you're getting 3 shades of blush and 1 shade of highlighter, or potentially a blush topper, depending on your skin tone. Super pretty shades. We have to swatch some of these because this pink is such a popular shade nowadays. Ooh, they're so smooth and the texture feels actually really nice. Yeah, I mean, it's like a little bit of a thinner formula, which is kind of nice. Okay, that one maybe didn't swatch great, but the blushes are pretty decent. I mean, these are the types of colors that are really popular and trendy nowadays. I mean, this like purpley pinky blush would be all the rage. And then the final Lorac holiday set I wanted to show you guys, I had to throw it at the end here because I don't know when this came out. This was one of the very few products that I did so much research on and could find no information, okay? I don't know where this thing came from. If I had to guess, I would say it might have been holiday of 2012 or maybe 2013, like the holiday before the Mega Pro palette started coming out, but that's just a guess. I literally couldn't find any information on this and it doesn't have a label or anything on it. So I don't know what the name of this set even is. Obviously it is Lorac, it's branded Lorac, and it feels very, it feels very 2012. It's literally a case that has this removable palette here. Is this an eyeliner? I think this might be an eyeliner. Oh, it's a lip liner. Okay, here we go. Let's swatch this lip liner. Oh yeah, that is fully dried out feeling, but there's your lip liner. And here's the actual like palette you get. So in this first little area, you've got 8 shadows, 2 face products, and these 2 glosses. And then is this like, oh, it's like kind of double-sided. Yeah, okay. It's like a 2-page where it's 2 pages here. And you know what? That's probably where the lip pencil goes, right in there. And you've got a little brush in here too. Okay. 8 more shadows, 2 more blushes. You know what? I'm locking in my final answer is 2012. This feels so 2012 to me. And honestly, I kind of feel like some of these shades, if they launched now, would kind of sell. I mean, they're a little chalky. I don't know if it's my skin tone or the actual colors. Obviously, it could be a combination of the two, but you know what? Okay, it's chalky. Let's be honest. This would not sell in today's day and age. I really was trying to be really unnecessarily optimistic with this one, but interesting concept, comes with its own little weird case, but Anyway, I'm guessing 2012 or 2013 on this one. Okay guys, welcome to day 2 of filming this video. This video is going to take me so freaking long to make, but I really wanted to talk through everything with you guys, so I hope you're hanging in there with me. The next brand we're going to talk about is Makeup Forever. I have a decent amount of Makeup Forever holiday-esque products slash palettes. We've got a launch from 2011. This one here is from 2014. We've got this one from 2014 as well, and all 3 of these palettes here are 2015. I know there's at least one product here that was pretty iconic in the Makeup Forever holiday type launches. How many of you guys remember this little set here? This is not an eyeshadow palette, actually. This is a kind of tin casing, and this product came with, how many were there in here? 10 of the Makeup Forever Aqua Cream eyeshadows, and then of course a little brush down here. This was a really big deal when it launched because these Aqua Cream shadows were so popular. This set was called the Wild and Chic Aqua Cream Premium Set. It retailed for $175 for all 10 of these full-size cream shadows. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little afraid of actually opening these, but you know what? We'll do at least 1 or 2 for you guys to see. These are cream shadows, so okay, it doesn't look moldy, so that's a pro. I wonder if they're actually still, they're not really creamy. I mean, they're not totally dried out. You can definitely pull some pigment off of it. Not something that I would use on my eyes, obviously, but I mean, pretty color. It kind of reminds me of a Laura Mercier Caviar eye color stick that I really, really love. It is a really pretty shade. I'm not even sure if Makeup Forever still sells these Aqua Cream shadows, but like I said, this was a very, very iconic launch in 2011 because we had never really seen Makeup Forever do something like this, where they released a bunch of full-sized products all in one kit. So this was an iconic 2011 launch for sure. This was definitely one of the biggest investment palettes I had made in my YouTube career up until that point. This launched in 2014. This is the iconic Makeup Forever 30/30 palette is what they called it. This palette launched for Makeup Forever's 30th anniversary, and this palette was just, it was a time, you guys. This palette retailed for $250, and you got 30 full-sized Makeup Forever eyeshadows. Opening this up, I mean, I kept everything, you guys. I was genuinely a collector, in case you haven't noticed yet. But yeah, I've still got all the pamphlets. It fully breaks down everything in this kit. And then you've got 10 shadows. Let's take this off. 10 shadows up here at the top. This is kind of like their smoky section. The next layer here, how do we take this off? Okay, there we go. This is what they called their neutral section. And then this final tray at the bottom, I don't know if this one actually pops out or not, but this one in here is called their artistic section. 30 full-size Makeup Forever shadows. This palette retailed for $250, so it definitely was a splurge. I do remember doing a full video on this palette, and it really was sought after. It was a very limited edition launch from Makeup Forever, and this was at a time where Makeup Forever's single eyeshadows were just absolutely iconic. Everybody wanted their single shadows, and over the years, Makeup Forever has definitely reformulated their single shadows multiple times over, but I'm telling you, this was one of the most iconic formulas that Makeup Forever ever launched. But there's that 30/30 palette, you guys. Just an iconic collector product. That same year in 2014, we got this little train case type palette. I'm not sure what the exact name of this set was, but I know it retailed for $59.50. Oh, maybe it was called the Makeup Forever Studio Case. Not sure. But in here, okay, I'm trying to take this plastic off here, but in here you get 12 mini shadows as well as what looks like an eyeliner here. And this is genuinely just a case. If you look in here, it's empty in the bottom, so it's not like stacked with more product or anything. I'm gonna go ahead and swatch some of these for us. I don't know why I'm always gravitating towards those bold colors, but I am. So pretty. They are really, really pretty. Oh, Yeah, I don't know. Makeup Forever's formula, like I said, they've reformulated so many times over, but overall, I mean, their products are so good. I haven't really kept up with Makeup Forever like I used to back in the day, so I don't know if they're still releasing stuff like this, but it would be fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, an exact palette like this would definitely be dubbed as very, very bulky and unnecessary in today's day and age. But again, there's something very fun and nostalgic about it. Okay, the following year in fall of 2015, we got these two palettes. These each retailed for $42 each, and they released together, I believe. Not necessarily as a duo, you did have to purchase them individually, but they released at the same time. This one is the 9-pan palette that's more neutral in tone. And then you've got this one, which is clearly more colorful in tone. And you can see that there are certain colors that Makeup Forever does repeat in these big palettes. If they're gonna include bright colors, you're gonna get an electric teal, you're gonna get a hot pink, and you're gonna get this bright purple. They will not skimp on these colors, particularly back in 2014, 2015, you were always getting these types of shades in Makeup Forever palettes. But again, that's kind of what they were known for. Not a lot of brands were doing colors like this, so it was really fun. And yeah, these were just the Palette 9 Artist Shadow palettes, and yeah, these were really good fall launches. And then finally for holiday of 2015, we got this really beautiful, larger Makeup Forever palette. This was the Palette 15 Artist Shadow. Makeup Forever doesn't get too creative with their names, nor do they name their eyeshadows. You can see they're all just numbered. It does make it hard to keep track of what you own from Makeup Forever, but I understand it's a makeup artist brand. This is the inside of this palette. Like I said, we've got the classic Makeup Forever formula going on in here. There is no hot pink in here, but you've got your bright purple, you've got your teal, you've got some neutrals thrown in there. Classic Makeup Forever color range. This shadow up here definitely looks a little suspicious, I will admit. Again, this palette is almost 10 years old now, so we've got a suspicious shadow in here. Everything else looks pretty good though, to be honest. Again, wouldn't use it on my eyes, don't get me wrong, but you know, looks pretty decent. I have one Marc Jacobs holiday launch to talk about. Do you guys remember this palette? I did review this palette back in the day. This was the Style Icon number 20 plush eyeshadow palette. And this retailed for $99 and it launched holiday of 2015. The actual name of the palette is The Free Spirit, and RIP to Marc Jacobs. I don't know if they're gonna relaunch or anything, but I hope they do because I really did like a lot of Marc Jacobs products and I liked their eyeshadow palettes overall too. This is what this one looked like. I believe it was one of the biggest eyeshadow palettes Marc Jacobs ever released. And then opening this palette up, that is what the inside of the palette looks like. Ooh, is that a little piece of glitter or something? What is that? Okay, we took care of that. But again, kind of a classic Marc Jacobs palette. They love to release muted, colorful tones. Like a lot of their palettes were neutral, but if they went color, it was pretty muted. So let's do some swatches. Of course, I'm gonna swatch this gold. I'm always gonna swatch the gold. But this greenish color, this matte purple, and maybe this taupe. Okay, not too bad in terms of pigmentation. I did, like I said, I liked the Marc Jacobs formula. It wasn't bad. Yeah, I mean, the purple wasn't great, but you could definitely work with it, and everything else in here seems pretty nice. The shimmers are, you know, a little bit of a thicker formula, but pigmentation is there, the shimmer is there, not bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, $99 is no bargain for this palette, but Marc Jacobs was a designer brand. It was priced like a designer brand, and we don't typically get these types of large palettes from designer brands, like from YSL or from Chanel. You're not really gonna get a large scale palette with 20 colors in a typical designer brand, so this was kind of fun and unique. I've got quite a few of the NARS holiday palettes here. These are all between the years of 2011 to 2016. I will say some of the older palettes are actually not even in this frame, and that is because I have them here on the side for a very good reason. We're going to talk about these two first because these are two of my oldest NARS holiday palettes, but I just couldn't put them on my floor here. And let's talk about it, okay? So these are two of my oldest NARS holiday palettes. We've got the Dan Marie palette, which is this one. It came out in 2011. And then this is the Guy Bourdin palette, and this came out in 2013. The reason that these palettes I will not even put on my floor is because the soft touch that these palettes are is completely breaking down. If you guys have any of this soft touch packaging in your makeup collection, NARS uses it a lot, but a lot of brands do this soft touch over the plastic casing. What I think a lot of us didn't realize is this stuff does not age, okay? As it gets older, essentially the soft touch seems to break down and it gets absolutely sticky. Sticky, tacky, you guys can see it on camera, but I'm telling you, when you touch this material, it feels like you coated this in a layer of honey and your fingers are just stuck to it, and anything this thing touches in my makeup collection gets absolutely nasty. I don't really think there's any way to even clean it. I've tried cleaning it with alcohol or whatever. I'm telling you, it's literally the soft touch. It's just breaking apart. You can see that here. This is just sticky. So yeah, I don't like that. Because of that, these two palettes are probably going to get decluttered, because how am I going to store these? And for what am I keeping these for? I mean, obviously the makeup inside is old, but the packaging is also old. It is literally breaking apart on me. But this is the oldest NARS face palette that I have. Like I said, this is the Dan Marie palette. It came out in 2011. It retailed for $65, which was such a good deal at the time too, because if I'm not mistaken, all 6 of these powders are a part of the NARS permanent lineup, or at least they were at the time. So it was a really good deal to get 6, not full-size powders, but decently sized powders for this price. And again, back in 2011, this was a time that these types of palettes were not available mass market. You didn't get face palettes like this. You didn't get a full cheek palette of iconic NARS products. Nowadays, I know this is super common. This is not anything that hasn't been seen or done before, but back in 2011, this was one of the first cheek palettes and everybody wanted this. 2 years later, NARS came out with a collaboration with Guy Bourdin, and again, you've got the same issue with that soft touch just breaking apart, and my fingers are tacky. I'm gonna have to wash my hands before we talk about the other palettes, because yeah, this is just unacceptable. It is unacceptable. But this was a 2013 launch. This also retailed for $65. This was called the One Night Stand palette. And in this one, again, you got 6 different powders. Why does this color layout look so similar to the Dan Marie palette? Okay, let's do a little side by side here. Yeah, they're similar. They're not identical, but they have very similar tones going on. I guess this is just kind of the NARS lineup, if we're being honest. Especially, again, back in 2011 and 2013, you kind of got what you got. But this one here on the right is the Dan Marie palette. This one is the One Night Stand palette. Again, definitely a hot ticket item, especially for the time. But this packaging, we have to be done with this soft touch. Okay, I literally had to use makeup remover to get that off of my hands. So let's move on to the plastic packaging of the NARS face palettes, which I really appreciate that they went this route moving forward. This was their face palette of 2014. This one retailed for $75 and it was called the Virtual Domination Cheek Palette. And like I said, I do appreciate this plastic packaging. No soft touch, so it will age perfectly fine. And here's what the inside of this one looks like. Instead of the 6 powders in this one, you got 1 big bronzer and 4 smaller cheek products. It does make sense for the bronzer to be in a bigger pan than the blushes and the highlighter. However, I will say this palette overall, as you can probably tell, definitely leans very light in tone. This would never be a blush on me. Literally never. Even this is not a bronzer on me, but this is a really pretty color here. But yeah, this was the palette of 2014. And then in terms of 2015, we had 2 different palettes here. NARS collabed with, I believe it's an artist, Stephen Klein. I could be wrong about that. Maybe he's a photographer or something. But either way, the Stephen Klein collection came with these 2 palettes here. We have this bigger one, which is called the One Shocking Moment palette. This one retailed for $69. And then we also had this slightly smaller one, which was the Despair palette. And this one retailed for $65. This Stephen Klein collection came out in 2015. So as far as this Despair palette, you could see similar layout to the last one, but instead of a bronzer here, you got a little brush. Kind of looks like a mini Ida brush. I wonder if it says that on the back. It does say that. The Ida Kabuki brush. Okay, so it is a little mini Ida brush, which if you guys know, the NARS Ida brush was an iconic NARS brush. I did own it, but I have no idea where my full size went. But yeah, kind of an iconic little palette here. And then as far as this bigger palette here, again, you've got a lot more product. You've got a large bronzer, some kind of, I guess it's a matte highlight and like a contour type color, and then 4 blushes. Definitely leans light, especially a lot of these blushes, and even these. I mean, it definitely leans light overall. But again, a pretty iconic 2015 release for NARS. And then the final holiday NARS palette that I have is this one from 2016. This one retailed for $59, and it is the Unfiltered 1 palette. I'm assuming they also had an Unfiltered 2 if they numbered this one number 1, and I don't know why I got the number 1 over the number 2, but this palette here is very, very pretty. You know what? I'm wondering if Unfiltered 2 might have been the lighter color combo and the Unfiltered 1 was the slightly deeper one, because as you can see, this is the first cheek palette I'm showing you guys that actually would work on my skin tone. Obviously, you've got this color here and this color, but all of these shades would work so well on me. I'm going to swatch some of them. So we're going to swatch this one, let's swatch the shimmery one, and let's swatch the highlighter. Oh yeah, these powders look so pretty and so pigmented. And yeah, for a blush, I mean, this is exactly the type of pigmentation you would want, a blush or a highlighter. This one here might be a little chunky maybe, so I don't know about this color, but everything else looks really good. I've got these 2 limited holiday quints from Natasha Denona. These launched in 2017, and this I believe is the only Natasha Denona holiday limited edition product that I own. I think it's the only one I could find in my collection, but I do remember when these quints came out. I did talk about them on my channel. You've got the Joya palette and the Aries palette, and this is what they look like. So let's talk about this Joya palette first. I love the overall vibe of this. It's giving cranberry sauce. We'll do some swatches of this palette as well. I do remember not being super impressed by these holiday palettes. I know I skipped that gold one. Crazy, huh? I would never do such a thing, but here are some swatches. And yeah, I mean, I do like Natasha Denona formula overall, but there was something about both of these quints that I just didn't quite vibe with. With this one, I'm sure a lot of it had to do with just the color scheme of it. You know, the quality seems perfectly acceptable, but I don't think I quite vibed with how pink some of these shades were. And for these 2 shades to be, in my opinion, a little too similar in tone, did not particularly vibe with this palette. And I remember not being a big fan of this one either. This here is the Aries palette. And again, each individual color does look really pretty, but as a full color story, I was a little confused by this one. Obviously, let's give this one some swatches too, because it does look very pretty. This one here is a little dry. And yeah, I mean, it looks pretty, but yeah, I don't know. There's just something about this palette that just didn't quite, you know, it didn't quite get me as excited as a lot of Natasha Denona launches were, especially again, back in 2017 when this launched. To me, these were kind of so-so palettes. Wasn't crazy about either of these. Okay, you guys, the sheer amount of Sephora holiday products that I still have in my collection is crazy. Sephora released a few of their humongous, almost like blockbuster sets. I have a couple of those. You can see scattered throughout here, we've got a bunch of the Sephora Disney collaboration mirrors. And you can see I've got some of the Sephora and Pantone Universe Color of the Year products in here. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in chronological order. So this here is my original Sephora Blockbuster set. This came out in 2010, okay? I remember doing a review on this on my channel back in 2010. This here is the Endless Color Blockbuster palette. It retailed for $48, and you can see it looks like a little Sephora shopping bag, which is oh so cute. And then you open it up like this, and in the top you have literally a million different eyeshadows. It's definitely giving BH Cosmetics 120 pan palette. It's giving Coastal Scents 88 palette vibes here. Those are also some OG makeup products that I know if you've been around, you know, on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. Then we've got, you know, your classic lip color options. This was such a classic layout of a palette. You've got some cream eyeliners, some pencil eyeliners, and then in here it pops open to reveal a mirror and 3 cheek products. I love that out of all of this, you only get 3 cheek products, but you get a billion lip colors and a billion eyeshadows. Like, God forbid you want a different blush color on your face. You don't get it. So yeah, this is a 2010 palette. Of course, I'm keeping this one for the memories. I know I didn't use this even all that often back in 2010, but again, it was one of my first huge palettes that I had and one of the first reviews I ever did on my YouTube channel. This next product we have here is a Sephora Pantone Universe little blush duo that we have here. This was the color of the year in 2012, and that color was Tangerine Tango. And so when Sephora collabed with Pantone Universe, this is the blush color they released, which objectively is just gorgeous. It's so pretty, and honestly, the texture, not bad. For a 2012 launch, I think Sephora and Pantone kind of slayed this one. Honestly, I kind of love it. This blush, if it came out now and it just wasn't quite so chunky, but this color would absolutely sell in today's day and age. People would be obsessed with the way this color looks. It was the perfect peachy pink with that golden flip to it, and you know, with glowy blush being so popular right now, this would sell. But yeah, I think this was the only product I purchased from this particular collection of 2012. I don't know if they released anything else, but this is the only one I have, and I kind of love it. Next up here, we've got a few products that were the color of the year 2014, and I think that color was Radiant Orchid. That was what it was. It's the Radiant Orchid. So here we've got the little blush trio. They called it their Rush Luster Cheek Sweep, and this I remember really enjoying. You can see here, oh, this Radiant Orchid blush, so pretty. And then a couple of highlighters slash potential blush toppers, depending on your skin tone. We are going to swatch this one. And I'm telling you, the powders are really nice, like very, very smooth. This color, this Radiant Orchid color, again, that would absolutely sell on today's market, I think. It definitely swatches a little bit more purpley than pink, but I kind of love it. I kind of love it. So that was the blush trio. And then we also had this larger palette here, which they called the Eye Radiant Femme Artistry Set. Again, a part of that same Radiant Orchid collection. And okay, I kind of like the way they laid this out, showing you guys that they're split up into quads. They even named the quads, which is pretty cute. And then you've got your Radiant Orchid color of the year down here. Maybe not the most practical palette. How do I get this? Oh, there we go. Okay. Maybe not the most practical palette out there, but pretty cute. And in my opinion, pretty thought through. I kind of like the way they did that. So that was the Radiant Orchid eyeshadow palette. The next Sephora Pantone Universe collab was their Marsala color. This was color of the year in 2015. And I think most people can agree this was a lot of people's favorite Pantone color of the year, especially when it came to wearable makeup products. I mean, look at this blush trio. So freaking pretty. This Marsala blush is literally stunning. And then you've got this lighter peach and this highlighter. Yeah, this is literally something that we would be obsessed with today. I mean, this is gorgeous. I love all of these colors. I love them all together. This one may not work on my skin tone, this lighter peach, but that Marsala color is incredible. I loved this color of the year. So this here was the Shimmering Marsala Cheek Trio. And then in this other little palette here, this is the eyeshadow palette. They called it the Facets of Marsala Multi-Finish Eye Palette. This was a lot more compact and you got a lot more colors in here. And again, just as a color palette, I think this is stunning. What a beautiful, beautiful color story here. This shadow looks a little suspicious, but other than that, just as a color story, stunning. Very warm tone. Again, I'm not sure if Modern Renaissance was out yet, but we definitely were getting more of the warm tones, which just wasn't as common back in 2015. And remember, this collection came out like early 2015 because the color of the years came out towards the beginning of the year. So this was a stunning launch. Honestly, I think this might have been the best Pantone color of the year in regards to makeup. Okay, and then in fall of 2015, Sephora collabed with the Disney princesses to expand their range of these compact mirrors. I just wanted to show these to you guys very quickly. We're not going to go through and open all of these up, but I do remember originally they released this Cinderella compact mirror. This was the original Cinderella mirror. And then this got so popular that they released this Princess Jasmine one individually, which is just stunning. And then the third one they released was this Ariel one, or obviously the Little Mermaid. So these three launched, I want to say maybe 2013, 2014. And again, they were so sought after, so popular that in fall of 2015, Sephora decided to release a full collection of these mirrors with kind of a new design element. I know they released 6 of them. I don't have the 6th one. The 6th one, I believe, was Anna or Elsa or both of them. It was like a Frozen mirror. And to be honest, I just remember not being the biggest fan of Frozen, nor am I that big of a fan of Frozen now. Not that I dislike it by any means, but it just isn't an original Disney character that I have memories from childhood. So because of that, I just stuck to these 5. Maybe for collector's purposes, I should have just gotten the Frozen one too, but it's fine. So in this collection, they released a new Cinderella mirror. You can see this is the original Cinderella, and then this is the new Cinderella. Definitely don't love the new design as much as the original design. I mean, the new designs are very clear what character they are versus the original ones are a little bit more like of an interpretation. But yeah, this was one of the first mirrors. They did not release a new Princess Jasmine one for some reason, but I will say this original Princess Jasmine mirror might be my favorite out of all of them. They did release a new Ariel one. So you've got the original Ariel over here, and then you've got the new Ariel. And like I said, more of a literal interpretation. Like you can clearly see her here in the new mirror versus the old one is kind of, you know, it's a little bit more artsy in my opinion. And then I'll just show you some up close of these other ones. We got a Snow White mirror, which I do love the color scheme of this one. We also got an Aurora or a Sleeping Beauty mirror, super cute. And then finally we got a Belle or Beauty and the Beast mirror. Again, I kind of love this one too, very pretty. And then the final Sephora holiday product. I purchased this holiday of 2015. So after those mirrors came out, I will be honest, I don't know why I bought this. I feel like by 2015, I should have grown out of these giant blockbuster color books, but I may have done a review, or maybe I thought I was going to do a review or something. But anyways, this is the Color Wonderland palette. It did retail for $59, and it is exactly what you would expect from a palette like this. Let me take off this little film so you can see what's going on in here. But again, you get a million eyeshadows. They broke this palette up into the neutral side and the colorful side, and you get some liners and some other stuff in there. Like I said, I know I didn't use this very much, if at all. I think I bought it because I thought I would do a review, and then I just never got around to it. And honestly, like I said, this is one of those that, you know, I should have grown out of something like this by 2015 for sure. Okay, between the years of 2011 and 2016, Smashbox was one of my favorite brands to collect holiday products from. They always released a big palette or something of the sort that I was really excited to get my hands on. So let's talk about it. So first off, we have this palette. This is the Smashbox Photo Op Mega Palette. This came out in 2011 and it came out as a QVC exclusive. This was like a QVC Today Special Value type palette. It was almost $100, but this palette was completely iconic. I remember it was actually a follower of mine that told me that I needed to get my hands on this, so I jumped on it. And I will say it came out in 2011, so it is kind of falling apart. Oop, okay, unsurprisingly, let's get this little guy back in here. Can we get it back in here? Yeah, we can, kind of. Yeah, the whole palette. I mean, this obviously was supposed to be glued down, but you know, it's been a while. Apparently glue doesn't last 14 years. Who would have thunk it? Even this was supposed to be glued over this. Oh my goodness, it's a hot mess over here. But anyways, you kind of open it up like this, and this is the full palette. I know you guys are probably looking at this and thinking it looks very similar to something like the Sephora Blockbuster palettes or something like that, just a bunch of eyeshadows. But here's what was special about this palette. And I know you guys are just looking at these moldy cream shadows over here. Don't look at those, okay? The whole point of this palette is that Smashbox had semi-recently released their trios, the little eyeshadow trios that came in the round plastic packaging, and those had become pretty popular for the brand. And in this palette, you actually got every single one of those trios. You can see they're just kind of like mapped out for you. All 16 of the trios. You've got 8 over here, 8 over here, and then you've got 2 of their quads that they have across the bottom here. And then you also got 4 lipsticks, 2 blushes, 3 highlighters, a bunch of brow products, and then some cream or gel eyeliners. This is obviously the part of the palette that's really breaking down. Don't forget, this came out in 2011. So we've got some glue coming apart. We've got some moldy creams over there, but this was pretty much my first Smashbox palette. Like I said, it was a viewer that told me that I needed to get this, and I remember really enjoying it. I remember going in on this little trio here, this pink one. I really did love it. So anyways, that was this palette. We're just gonna, you know, fold that up and put this in a museum somewhere. The next Smashbox holiday palette I have, this one came out in 2013, and this one retailed for $49. They called this their Wonder Vision Mega Palette. So let's open this one up. Okay, this one, I remember ordering it from Amazon and receiving a completely smashed up palette. That was one of the first and potentially only times I ordered eyeshadow palettes off of Amazon. But yeah, you've got all of these eyeshadows here. You've got some blushes, and then you've also got some, little lookbook cards up here. Your classic little add-on for the time. 2013 was a time, and this was actually a very exciting palette. At least the glue on this one is still holding up. So that was holiday of 2013. In the year of 2014, I got both of these Smashbox holiday palettes. This one here definitely looks very, very holiday, but I'm pretty sure this was a holiday launch of theirs as well. It's possible this was like a Sephora exclusive launch or something like that. This they called the Masterclass 3 palette. And in this one, you got, it almost looks like a book in here. You just keep flipping the little pages, but in here you got, again, a bunch of eyeshadows and then quite a few face products down at the bottom. This is what we were going feral over back in 2014. Can you guys even believe it? I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm like, yeah, I remember loving this. I remember being completely obsessed with this, and I love the way they had this like hard plastic over the shadows too. Let's do some swatches of some of these. I'm just curious to know if the formula would hold up in today's day and age. You know what? Maybe. It actually might hold up. These actually look pretty decent. A little flaky for sure, okay? It's making a little bit of a mess, and the mattes might be just a touch patchy, but not too bad. Not too bad for 2014. These definitely could have been worse, but yeah, that was kind of this palette. I mean, again, unnecessarily big and bulky for what you get in here. They definitely could have slimmed this down and made it, just easier to digest, but you know, this was a classic 2014 palette. This was the other holiday product that I got from the Smashbox collection of 2014. This was the On the Rocks Photo Op Eyeshadow Luxe palette. I remember being obsessed with this packaging. I mean, look at the bling, look at the iridescence, and then the inside too, just gorgeous. I'm sure this would not be a layout that would be released in today's day and age, especially with this giant like bling in the middle, but it was really, really pretty. You can see, similar to Makeup Forever, Smashbox definitely has a formula when it comes to these big palettes of theirs. You're always gonna get some muted colors, some kind of earthy colors, some random bluish tones, a purple. I mean, they have their formula kind of down, and they didn't seem to stray all that often. So in a lot of these holiday palettes, you're getting similar color tones for sure. As far as 2015 was concerned, I did not pick up an eyeshadow holiday palette in 2015, but Smashbox did release this. This was their 25-year anniversary Our Lips Have Been Sealed lip palette. As you guys will see, I wasn't a fan of lip palettes. I don't know why I necessarily bought this. It might have just been the collector in me, just, you know, having those intrusive thoughts. But I did not use this, you guys. I never enjoyed a lip palette. Still to this day, I wouldn't really enjoy a lip palette, but I had to have this at the time. Again, there's some products that are going kind of nasty in here, but yeah, this was the Our Lips Are Sealed palette by Smashbox, released for their 25th anniversary, and this lip palette was $75. Kind of crazy in price if you ask me. Again, especially for a lip palette, I feel like typically an eyeshadow palette like this might have retailed for $75, but a lip palette, kind of crazy. And then the final Smashbox palette I have comes in the exact same packaging as the last one, but this came out in 2016, and this is what they call their LA Lights palette contour blush highlight. So obviously based on that name, you can see this is a face palette, and I do remember really enjoying this palette. This one retailed for $39, which I thought for all you got in here, I thought it was a really good deal. You got quite a few blushes. You've even got kind of a bronzy tone over here, and then you've got 3 highlighters over here on the right. A really pretty palette. I remember really enjoying this one when it came out as well. I've got 2 Sugarpill holiday type products. I don't know if these were officially a holiday launch for them, but they both came out towards the end of the year, so it was definitely giving holiday. We've got the Cold Chemistry palette. This came out in 2013, and then the Sparkle Baby palette, which came out late 2014, early 2015. Each of these palettes retail for $34, and they were both 4-pan eyeshadow palettes. And I really did love Sugarpill, especially at this time. And you can see even the color scheme. Again, remember, this is 2013. So this was extremely unique color scheme for back then. Sugarpill was definitely known for their brighter, more unique colors. They were known for their shimmery pigments. Yeah, they were definitely known for having colors that were a little bit outside of the box, and the quality was always top tier. Ooh, I might have picked up a little too much of these. I just kind of dug my finger in them, but overall, I mean, really pretty. A little chunky, definitely a little bit thicker, but that was kind of a really common formula for that time. And then as far as this Sparkle Baby palette, again, I loved Sugarbill's packaging. They just did such a cute job. And this palette, again, so pretty, more pastel-ish. We'll do some swatches of these as well. I'll try to pick up a little bit less, but again, the texture of these is thicker. Again, that was just the formula of the time. This shade here is so pretty though, like so pretty, but yeah, you guys can see really unique color scheme. Definitely not a one and done palette for me by any means, but especially at the time, 2014, 2015, this was gorgeous. Okay, you guys, we have reached final boss status. We are at the Super Bowl right now. We are in the final swing of things. We are at the Eras Tour, okay? This is the Eras Tour. We now have the final 3 brands that, in my opinion, make the most iconic holiday palettes, products sets, and these are the 3 brands that I started my makeup obsession with. First off here, we've got Tarte. Next up, we have Too Faced, and finally, we have Urban Decay. And I know these were the 3 brands that everybody was waiting for, and alphabetically, they happened to fall last. They fell last, but I know you guys were waiting for these brands. Thank you for sticking it out with me through this video. So let's talk about it, okay? These are not even all of the Tarte holiday products I have. I squeezed as much as I could into this little framing here, but let's go through them chronologically. Okay, you guys, this is the very first Tarte holiday palette I ever purchased. In fact, this might have been one of the very first Tarte holiday palettes to ever come out. This launched in 2009. I remember going to Sephora and purchasing this in 2009, and this right here is called the Treasure Chest limited edition palette. And I just want you guys to soak this in here. This is a vintage palette at this point, okay? Nobody keeps makeup for this long other than me. But like I said, this was one of my very first makeup palettes, so it does have a little bit of a special place in my heart. So when you open it up, you've got 16 eyeshadows here at the top, and then these 2 little wings pop open to reveal 16 more shadows. This was the original Lorac Mega Pro palette, okay? Because the top layer here were all shimmers, and then these were all mattes. I'm telling you, Tarte was ahead of their time, okay? And then this first little drawer that pops open reveals 16 lip colors. And then if you keep pulling, you've got 6 different face products. I'm telling you, for a palette, this was way ahead of its time. And think about it, you guys. Tarte does not release colors like this. Like, when have you ever seen Tarte release this kind of blue? Or this kind of light purple here? Or even a navy? I feel like we don't really see that from Tarte very often. But this is where they started with holiday products. This was my original Tarte palette. Oh, and I also wanted to let you know that back in 2009, this palette did retail for $52. Now, obviously, you got a lot of stuff in here, but for 2009, I kind of thought $52 was a little high, no? So clearly that last palette worked out for Tarte so well that in 2010, they released a very similar holiday palette. This one they called the Jewelry Box palette. And the reason this was called the Jewelry Box, as you can see, this actually had a detachable necklace on the palette. Again, definitely a unique idea. You can obviously see I did not use it, but I think it decored up the palette kind of cute. And on the inside, very similar layout. You've got your 16 eyeshadows here up top. You flip these little wings open to show another 16 shadows. And then as before, you start pulling these little drawers. The second drawer has 2 face products and some lip colors. And then this bottom drawer, the upgrade you got in the 2010 version, were 5 mini eyeliners. Interesting little palette concept here from Tarte. And yeah, this was the last year that they did this kind of box palette like this. But again, this one also retailed for $52 back in 2010. Here's what we got from Tarte in 2011. This is a full mirror up here. And when you flip open the top here, you have got 4 different eyeshadow quads up here. And then you've got a couple drawers. The first drawer has 2 more quads, and I think this is like a little mascara and a mascara primer. And then in this bottom drawer here, you've got 4 different face products. And you can see by this point, they had released their Amazonian Clay blushes. This is their Park Avenue Princess bronzer. A couple of iconic Tarte face products in here. And this was their little layout of 2011. Okay, I didn't purchase anything from the Tarte holiday collection of 2012. So we're jumping ahead to 2013. This was such an exciting launch, at least for me. This is a face palette that they called the Off the Cuff Amazonian Clay Cheek Palette. It also says and bracelet, but obviously I don't have the bracelet that goes with it. But this was a $42 palette, and in here you get 5, I don't know if these are full size, but they look like very generous sized blushes. And again, in 2013, the Amazonian clay blushes were the formula that was so popular. They were really, really popping off with Tarte. If I'm not mistaken, they might have been the bestseller at Tarte. And so this was a very exciting palette for the time. Okay, I had a couple of different products here from holiday of 2014. So let's go ahead and start off with the blush palette. This was the 2014 blush palette. They called this their Pinup Girl Amazonian Clay Blush Palette. I do remember doing a review on this palette on my channel, and I kind of liked it. I mean, the packaging was a little bit like, it looked like a clutch. It was kind of cute. And then you push the little latch and it opens up to reveal 5 Amazonian clay blushes in here. This palette also retailed for $42. And like I said, even in 2014, Amazonian clay products is what we wanted. We wanted these. We loved these. So this was a very hot product at the time. As far as the actual holiday sets or holiday kits, this was one from 2014 that I purchased. This was called the Away We Go Collector Set and Portable Palette. This set here was $48, and oh, I don't even remember this, but now that I'm opening it, I kind of do. So in here, you can see that you get 4 essentially like mini palettes. Each of these little palettes has a quad of eyeshadows as well as an Amazonian clay blush, and you can pop each of these out and put it in this little mini palette, which this palette here is actually really pretty. I love the color of it. I love the pearls. This is genuinely gorgeous, and I assume they magnet into here. So if you just wanted to take one of these traveling, that's how this little palette worked. And then of course it was a full set. So you got 3 glosses and their lights, camera, lashes, mascara. And then the final holiday set of 2014 that I picked up, this they called their Sweet Indulgences gift set. This was a QVC exclusive product and it retailed for $60. I want to say I was sent this by Tarte if I'm not mistaken, but the way this one worked is it had 3 like mini sets essentially in it. So each of these popped open. In this one, you got 2 full-size Amazonian clay blushes and 3 of their Lip Surgeons lip crayons. How many of you guys remembered these? I remember being so obsessed with these. I loved them, and still creamy, still really pretty. So that's what was in this little set. Then in this little set, you've got 2, what I'm assuming are eyeshadow palettes. Let's see. Oh yeah, you've got this one, which is really pretty cool toned neutral palette. Stick a little plastic on that one. And then in this one, oh, it opens the other way. Okay, that was a little confusing. Another cool tone neutral palette. Shocker, shocker. 2014 didn't have a lot of diversity to it. And then in this final little set, what did we get in here? Oh, we got 3 pencil liners and 2 full-size lights, camera, lashes, mascaras. Okay, I could see this being a good kit to have broken up amongst people. Maybe not like gifting one full set, unless you know somebody really loved Tarte products, and especially that mascara, because you're getting 2 of them. But yeah, that was the QVC exclusive of 2014. These were the 2 holiday products that I picked up from the Tarte 2015 holiday collection. So this was their big kind of collector set. And then you've also got yet another cheek palette. So let's talk about this cheek palette first. It comes in very similar packaging to the cheek palette of 2013. This one is called the Bling It On Amazonian Clay Blush Palette. This also retailed for $44. And I remember this was a Sephora exclusive palette. Very, very similar layout to all of the other Amazonian clay blush palettes that we've seen. I don't know why I needed all of these, but this was kind of like the Hourglass ambient lighting edit palettes of the time. This was very much a time, like a moment. This was a moment. And then as far as this kit, I really like this packaging. I'm not gonna lie. This is kind of very, very pretty. They called this the Light of the Party set. This retailed for $59, and this one has a full zip zipper going around it. So when you open this up, on the inside here, you've got 24 eyeshadows here in this section. And as you can see, Tarte is really honing in on their color story now. This is very Tarte. This is the type of Tarte that we know in today's day and age. A very neutral, muted color story. This is your classic Tarte color story, and they figured it out in 2015. In this upper part here, what do we have? Oh, we've got more eyeshadows. Okay, they were like, you know what? This down here, not enough. We need to add more. So there's 6 more shadows, a highlighter, and then 2 blush / bronzer products. So that's what you get in that little section. And then again, lights, camera, lashes, and a double-ended brush. This here is a very 2015 release. It's definitely giving 2015. Okay, in 2016, these were the 2 Tarte holiday products that I picked up. Again, we'll go ahead and start with the cheek palette here. This palette retailed for $44. They called this the Color Wheel Amazonian Clay Blush Palette. I do remember talking about this one on my channel as well. You've got 5 Amazonian clay blushes over here, and then another 5 over here. You've kind of got your warm tone shades, your more coral shades, and then your more cooler pinky tone shades over here. I have to say, for them giving you 10 different colors, a lot of these look oddly similar. Like, come on, don't tell me that all 3 of these are not going to look almost the same on the skin. Look at these. I mean, okay, yeah, there is a little bit of color variation in them. And I understand that with 10 colors, there's only so much variation you can have, but I don't know. I mean, again, a classic Tarte color scheme with this one. This was the Tarte holiday set that I picked up in 2016. They called this their Holiday Paint Palette Collector's Set. This set retailed for $49, and in here, in the top section, you've got a giant layout of eyeshadows. How many do we have in here? 24 as well. Another 24 Tarte shadows here at the top. Okay, I was trying to find this drawer. I was like, where did that drawer go? Okay, it's here on the side. If you pull this drawer out, you've got a Tarteist lip paint. It's actually called their glossy lip paint. And then they also have this Tarteist mascara. You've got your brush, and then I assume cheek products in here. Let's see. Let's see. Yep, you've got 3 cheek products in this very interesting artist easel vibe. Did not see that one coming. That was kind of a twist ending right there. Okay, and then the final Tarte holiday palette that I ever purchased, I think, is from 2018. This one here is called the Pineapple of My Eye Collector Set. It retailed for $58. And if you guys have been on my channel for a while, you know that me and my channel and pineapples were like this. We have something going on, okay? I love me a good pineapple. So this palette, I just knew I had to have it. It is so cute. Again, this was the last Tarte holiday product I purchased, and for a good reason. I was kind of tired of these giant generic color stories and this giant like overwhelming palette of products. But when I saw the pineapple, I knew I had to get it. I had to get it for me. I had to get it for the plot. I had to get it for the collection. So you've got a bunch of eyeshadows and then some face products in this one. A pretty standard Tarte holiday product at this point. But again, I just had to get it for the storyline. Welcome to day 3 of filming this video, you guys. We are on the final 2 brands, and these are doozies. This one we have is Too Faced, and we know how I have felt about Too Faced holiday collections over the years. You guys will see that Too Faced is actually the brand that started my makeup addiction. I have one of the oldest holiday palettes in my collection from Too Faced. Can you guys spot the oldest makeup palette I have in my collection in this little setup here? If you guessed this one over here, the Glamour Revolution palette, you will be correct. So let's talk about it. Okay, you guys, this palette here, this is the oldest holiday makeup palette that I have in my collection. This was the Too Faced Glamour Revolution palette. It came out holiday of 2009. Kind of crazy how Too Faced was doing these really, really cute palettes even back in 2009. I'm telling you, they really decked this palette out. You can see the theme of this one overall was very like Marie Antoinette, very French. Of course, it was called Glamour Revolution, and this was so intricate. Okay, are you ready to see the inside of this? I mean, the intricacies of this palette were insane. As with many Too Faced palettes, you got these little look cards. They always gave you these little look cards in these palettes back in the day. So, you know, if you needed a little tutorial, this was pre-makeup tutorial online. You got 3 lip colors, a blush, and a bronzer here. And for those of you guys wondering, yes, this is Too Faced Chocolate Soleil Bronzer. This has been in their line literally since 2009, included in this holiday palette of theirs. So this is an OG product. And I mean, the details of this palette were immaculate. You could even pull out this little mirror here, and underneath it had this little picture of the model and this little phrase that says, "Why be pretty when you can be gorgeous?" Very Too Faced, okay? Too Faced branding was very Too Faced. And then when you pulled this little section out, you got 9 different eyeshadows and a mini Too Faced shadow insurance. And you know what, you guys, up close, some of these colors might be kind of familiar to you guys. Label Whore was a really, really popular Too Faced shadow. I think Glamazon was another really popular shadow of theirs. Let's do some swatches of those two specifically, just because I'm so curious. And yeah, I mean, look at that pigment, considering this was 2009. I'm telling you, you guys, this could have been so much worse. And you know what? In the drugstore, this was so much worse. This was insanely good eyeshadow pigment for the time. Too Faced really had something going for them. So this Glamour Revolution palette started it all. As the kids say on TikTok, this was my villain origin story, okay? This entire channel would not have been a thing if this palette did not catch my eye and I did not purchase this. By that point, I was completely obsessed with Too Faced holiday products. So in 2010, this was the holiday palette that they released. This one is called Enchanted Glamourland. Very similar layout to the Glamour Revolution palette. It also has that kind of book style thing going on. And again, Too Faced knows their branding. They know what they're doing. This one is a full pop-up storybook vibe. Don't forget, you get your little look cards because again, pre-makeup tutorials, we needed these look cards. In this little front flap, you also got one blush as well as what they called a bronzer. I would definitely consider it more of a shimmering face powder. And then similar to the last palette, this one also has a little drawer that's a little bit harder to take out, and you got a lot more shadows in this palette. You also got a full-size Too Faced shadow insurance as well as a lip gloss, which let's take a little peek at this vintage Too Faced Glamour Gloss, volumizing lip gloss with lip injection comfort plump. So lip injection, that is also an OG Too Faced product. Look, this has a little jewel on it. This is very pillow talk. Hello, Charlotte Tilbury, time to wake up and get your name back. But anyways, there's the vintage Too Faced gloss. Again, I'm saying vintage. It is close to 15 years old. To me, that is pretty vintage. And here's the lineup of shadows that you have in this palette. Again, here's Label Whore, here's Glamazon. I told you those are 2 really popular shades. I know Honey Pot was another really popular one from Too Faced, but overall, you guys, this was another really good palette. If you're looking at these things from a 2025 lens, yeah, this is a lot. But for 2010, this was perfect. Okay, for 2011, Too Faced decided to do something a little different. Still very Too Faced, obviously. Okay, you've got this really large, intricate, cut out like cardboard palette. This one they called their Sweet Dreams palette. So definitely a spin-off of the other 2 palettes. In my opinion, more gaudy for sure, which is kind of crazy when we were comparing it to the other 2 gaudy palettes. But here's what the inside of this one looks like. I guess we should open it this way, huh? So you've got 15 eyeshadow colors up top. Do we spot Label Whore? There she is. I see her in the bottom row. Label Whore's back. I told you there are some colors that Too Faced just would never let go of. I'm trying to be kind of careful with this one because I could feel this one sort of breaking apart on me a bit. Don't worry, you guys. Don't worry. The look cards are coming. coming in this bottom drawer here. You've got 2 face powders, Chocolate Soleil bronzer, 2 blushes here, and then your 3 look cards. I know you thought we were gonna miss these, but we're not missing them. Too Faced has not gotten rid of these cards yet because we needed those. But yeah, this was the palette of 2011, the Sweet Dreams palette. I know a lot of you guys are gonna have some memories of these next 2 palettes coming up. This one here, a few of my favorite things. This was Too Faced holiday palette of 2013, okay? This one went totally viral on YouTube. I mean, all the beauty influencers were talking about this palette. Everybody said you needed this palette. I might have been one of them, to be completely honest. But yeah, this was one of Too Faced's biggest holiday launches, I think, of all time. They clearly slimmed down and made these palettes a lot more sleek. And when you open this one, you can see that they really packed in product in this palette. You've got 20 eyeshadows here, and then you've got 4 different face products. Chocolate Soleil, in case you ran out the first 4 years, and a couple of really pretty blushes. Do we have label whore? Hold on, we gotta search for label whore. No label whore. I think these all seem like they're limited colors based on the names. I think these are actually new shades for Too Faced. Dang, that's kind of unfortunate. All right, well, that's okay. We still have like 3 label whores from the last 3 palettes. And then we've got a little how-to glamour guide here. Not exactly the cards, but a little booklet. We've got a little booklet going on here. Oh, I used to love Too Faced. This was everything that I wanted. The following holiday palette was essentially a spin-off of the last one. This was called the Everything Nice, That's What Pretty Girls Are Made Of palette. This came out in holiday of 2014. This one was a Sephora exclusive palette. I think this was the time that Too Faced started doing like Ulta exclusive products, Sephora exclusive products, and like different retailers would get different holiday palettes. And this one, similar to the last one, is essentially the exact same layout. It honestly looks like the exact same palette. Am I going crazy? Okay, I think we need to see these 2 next to each other. So this one is a few of my favorite things. Not that you can obviously get these anymore, but why are these the exact same palette, you guys? This is exactly the same. You cannot tell me otherwise. Even the face colors. Okay, this one has a highlighter, to be fair, but like, this is oddly similar. I'm telling you, Too Faced had a formula and they stuck to it. And you know what? It does make sense because not everybody was like me. Not everybody was collecting every holiday palette throughout the years. And I could definitely see someone purchase last year's palette and maybe their friend or family member happens to see it in like March, April, May, and is like, oh my God, where'd you get that palette? And they're like, yeah, it was gone. It was during the holiday. And then when Too Faced would release this palette, just the slight quote unquote upgrade of the previous palette, I'm sure, you know, people ate it up. I have to remember that some people are normal and don't collect every Too Faced palette. But anyway, that was the Everything Nice palette. Okay, the following year in 2015, Too Faced released this collaboration with Vegas Nay. This was the Stardust palette. This technically came out in September of 2015, so it wasn't the Too Faced holiday collection, but you know, it was kind of a fall winter launch. So I just wanted to show this. This again got very viral on YouTube. And in terms of the inside of this palette, honestly, this is a pretty basic color story for Too Faced. But again, I remember we were going gaga over this. We loved this palette. My eye is like, I need to swatch some of these shimmers. Oh my gosh, they are really pretty actually. I mean, just the texture. The texture is really nice. Yeah, I mean, Too Faced knew what they were doing in terms of the quality. And again, remember, for the time, this was the best we had. The drugstore did not have pigmentation like this. They did not have colors like this. Drugstore eyeshadows really struggled. And so we had to kind of shell out for good formulas. ColourPop was not a thing. You know, we just have to remember the time. We had to shell out money for them. And this was really good for the time. Okay, so this was the theme of the holiday collection for 2015. It was kind of a Parisian theme going on. So let's talk about this one first. This was like their big box set. This was called Le Grand Palais set, and this retailed for $59, and it was a Sephora exclusive. So it came in this like cardboard box, and then you pop the top off here, and you open this thing up, and Too Faced really really did another pop-up. I do feel like by 2015, we were kind of over this whole pop-up thing, but I will admit it is very cute, very Parisian, you know, with the Eiffel Tower, and like, it just looks gorgeous. You get a mini Better Than Sex mascara, a shadow insurance, one of their melted liquid lipsticks, which again, we loved back in the day. And then here at the bottom, you got a palette. When you open up this palette, here's what's on the inside. So again, very Parisian, and then these are all your shades. Again, here I am looking for label whore, but I think that they also named a lot of these shades specific to this palette based on some of these names like Eiffel, Midnight in Paris, Champoly. Yeah, I think a lot of these are like actually for this palette. And then you get a couple blushes, highlighter, and bronzer here. So again, Too Faced knows their formula. I mean, a lot of these holiday palettes in terms of the color scheme look the same. Once you have one, you basically have them all, but you know, I thought it was a pretty palette. Definitely a unique little set here. Like I said, Too Faced was doing, you know, their Ulta exclusives, their Sephora exclusives. So this was that big Sephora exclusive. This was the other holiday product I picked up in 2015. This they called Le Grand Chateau, and this was a $49 set, and I have to admit, this packaging is stunning. I mean, this is just gorgeous. I love the way this looks, and you pop, again, the top off, and then with this one, these two doors open up like this, and then just pop that off, and on the inside, you get 3 like mini palettes, and just look at this. I mean, it's so pretty. You also get a mini Better Than Sex mascara. They were really promoting this mascara in 2015. The intricacies, you guys, this was just such a cute collection. As far as these mini palettes were concerned, this first one is the pink palette, and in here you get 6 shadows and a bronzer. I believe all of these palettes had this same layout. I could be wrong, but let's see. This one also has 6 shadows and a blush. And then the final one here, this black palette, you've got 6 shadows and a blush. Shocker, shocker. And yeah, all of these had the individual to and froms on the back if you wanted to gift them or make them little stocking stuffers. So again, cute idea, very giftable. I just think this whole collection was so cute. I love the way they boxed these up. Okay, this palette came out in January of 2016. So technically not a holiday launch, but it was close enough to the holidays that I'm just gonna include it. This was their Love Flush long-lasting 16-hour blush wardrobe. This palette I remember being really excited about because Too Faced had released their Love Flush blushes, and I don't think I had purchased any of them individually, and when they came out with this palette, it had all 6 of their blushes, all of which were included in their permanent line, and you got to have them all in one palette, which I thought was such a good deal. You got to try out every single shade from the permanent lineup, and I love when a brand will do that. I think it makes sense that Too Faced released this around January because this made a really cute Valentine's Day gift. By this point in the storyline, Too Faced had released their original chocolate bar palette. They had also released a couple of different versions of the chocolate bar palette. And for holiday of 2017, they came out with this chocolate gold palette. I think to this day, this is one of the more popular Too Faced chocolate bar palettes that was limited edition. I loved the Too Faced chocolate bar palettes overall, and this chocolate gold palette was very, very pretty. I mean, most everything in here is a shimmer, so you definitely had to have wanted some really sparkly, really pretty shimmery shadows. But yeah, this was just a really cool palette. And okay, these 2 shades here, I will say, look very suspicious. Can you guys see how the edges of the pan almost look moldy or something? Obviously that's not how it looked when I bought it. So we're not even gonna risk it. We're not gonna swatch this palette because clearly there's a little something funky going on with this formula. Unsurprisingly, again, this is an older palette, came out in 2017, so I'm sure it's expired. It still smells like chocolate. I can smell it from here. Like, it still smells like chocolate, but I was gonna swatch it, but we're just not gonna do that anymore. And then the final Too Faced holiday palette that I have here to show you guys is the Gingerbread Spice palette. This one came out holiday of 2018. 2018. And I know they kind of did versions of the gingerbread palette after this. I think they did like the extra spicy palette and maybe another palette or two. I'm not sure. But I think this is the only gingerbread palette I purchased. And again, Too Faced kind of nails it in terms of the branding. And then this is the Gingerbread Spice palette. Honestly, looking at this color scheme right here, right now, this looks very, very pretty. I think this palette is gorgeous. I think the shimmers over here look really pretty. I think the matte colors or the somewhat matte colors that they have are gorgeous. Again, I'm not feeling too risque right now. I'm not gonna stick my finger in any of these just because the gold palette kind of freaked me out a bit, but I think this color scheme is very pretty. I do really, really like this one. I thought this was a really good Too Faced holiday release. Okay, you guys, we are on to the very, very final brand. It's about time. I have so many Urban Decay holiday palettes to share with you guys. I know you guys are probably looking at this and seeing some treasure troves in here. I have literally got palettes from 2009 in this stash here. I think I've pretty much got every holiday palette from 2009 to 2018. So let's break it down. Let's talk about it. This was the very first Urban Decay palette I ever purchased, not just holiday palette, but just palette in general. This was their Book of Shadows Volume 2. The Book of Shadows Volume 1 came out in 2008, and I was not into makeup at the time, nor do I even think I had a Sephora close by, so I never got the original Book of Shadows. This is the first one I have. Like I said, this came out in 2009, okay? This is what this palette looked like. Very, very pretty. I love the little peacock design on it. And when you pop the top open, you've got a mirror, and then, oh, this was just so 2009 in here. I believe this is like a lookbook. Too Faced did their cards, and I think Urban Decay came out with a full like pamphlet. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, here we go. There is like a little lookbook, but it's like a full pamphlet in here. Urban Decay really took what Too Faced was doing and was like, hold my beer. We're gonna do a full book. So that's what was in that little section. And then in the bottom, you pull it out to reveal 16 eyeshadows, 2 of their 24/7 Glide On eye pencils, and then this had a mini primer potion in it. And don't get it twisted, okay? This is not supposed to be a speckled shadow right there. That is definitely something funky growing in the shadow. But again, this was from 2009. I'm sure if you're reading some of these names, you'll see that some of these are OG. These are OG Urban Decay colors. We've got Half Baked, Twice Baked, Mushroom, Midnight Cowboy Rides Again, even YDK. I remember being obsessed with that shadow. So here you go, an OG Urban Decay palette. Both of these Book of Shadows came out in 2010. Okay, we've got the Book of Shadows Volume 3, which is this one. And then we've got this Alice in Wonderland palette. This was the original Urban Decay Alice in Wonderland palette. I know this was a very, very coveted palette. I was honestly very lucky that I got this one. I don't think they made too many of these, but basically this is the same exact layout as the other Book of Shadows. When you pop the top of this one, we've got a full pop-up experience here. Urban Decay and Too Faced, they love to get a little creative with their stuff, which don't get me wrong, especially back in the day, that was kind of fun. And then again, when you pull out this bottom section, you've got 16 shadows, 2 eyeliner pencils, and your primer potion. All 16 of these shadows were part of the Urban Decay permanent lineup. They just renamed them for this palette. So while, of course, this palette was very special, it was very collectible and really, really hard to find, nothing in here was necessarily limited edition. It was just the limited edition packaging. And then officially for holiday of 2010, Urban Decay released this Urban Decay Hearts NYC palette. This one is quite thick. And just to put it into perspective, this one here is the Alice in Wonderland, and this is the New York City palette. So it is even thicker than the other Book of Shadows. And then this is what the back of it looks like. And I do remember, if I remember correctly, not only did the top of this have your pop-up, oh yeah, there it is, it also had lights. Do you guys see that? And the lights still work in this palette. That is so funny. This palette came out in 2010 and hey, the battery's still going strong in this one. So of course you've got this whole NYC pop-up with the lights. I mean, again, extravagant to say the least. And then like all of the palettes, down here in the bottom drawer, you have another 16 eyeshadows, 2 eyeliners, and a primer potion. And yeah, if you read some of the names of these shadows, we've got some OGs, Rockstar, Smog, Perversion. I mean, these were go-to shades from Urban Decay. Okay, this technically was not a holiday launch from Urban Decay, but I just wanted to show it to you guys because I remember reviewing this palette on my channel. This one came out in July of 2011. This was their 15th anniversary eyeshadow palette. It came in this purple velvet casing, and when you actually pop the palette off, as you can see, the mirroring is insane, and it does have like a raised gem UD. Urban Decay did use this similar format for a few of their other palettes coming up. And then when you take the lid off, you guys can see what the inside of this palette looks like. You've got 15 different eyeshadows in here. And again, Too Faced, Urban Decay, they do kind of follow a similar color format. You're usually gonna get a turquoise, you're usually gonna get a purple, you're probably gonna get a hot pink, and then like a black gray, and then a bunch of like neutral tones. That's pretty classic at this point. I'm sure you've noticed that through all of these holiday palettes. But yeah, I remember reviewing this. I did really love it. And like I said, it was definitely a different packaging format to all of their other palettes, at least up until this point. They did a similar packaging after this, but this was kind of the OG. Okay, holiday of 2012 delivered this brand new format of Urban Decay holiday palettes that, again, they really milked this format. This was the original Vice palette. Unfortunately, this has that same problem that all of the NARS products have, which is that it is this soft touch on this hard plastic, and this thing is just completely breaking down. I'm telling you, this soft touch does not last on plastic packaging, okay? This thing is sticky. It feels like I coated it in honey. And yeah, I've had to quarantine this from a lot of my other makeup products, but I still wanted to show it to you guys. You've got that raised gem design that they did on the previous palette, and then this is what the inside looks like. So now Urban Decay is doing 20 colors in these Vice palettes. They've clearly made their layout a lot sleeker. You know, these holiday palettes don't come with the pop-ups and the lights and, you know, all the extra stuff. We have definitely transformed into more of a minimalist makeup community, and Urban Decay followed suit with that. Again, I remember really enjoying this Vice palette. I loved their new layout. It's just unfortunate that it was this soft touch because while at the time it felt nice and luxe, now it's sticky and icky and gross. Okay, the following holiday in 2013, Urban Decay released their Vice 2 palette, very unsurprisingly. I really love the layout of this palette. They didn't do the soft touch, which I kind of appreciate because again, it's aging perfectly fine. At least the packaging is aging perfectly fine. Who knows how the shadows are doing on the inside? Let's take a peek. Exactly the same layout as the original Vice palette. Again, you have 20 different eyeshadows in here, and I do think these Vice palettes were really popular because you did get a pretty good variety of colors. While I'm looking at this palette right now and thinking, how often did I actually use this? Like, how did I use all these colors together? I think it's just the layout that's throwing me off because you did get, you know, your basic matte colors. You definitely got darker colors. You got some brighter colors. And yeah, you could absolutely get full looks out of this palette. It just almost looks like somebody came up with colors that would go together, threw them into a blender, blended them up so you can't really see the color combinations. But that is what was kind of fun about these palettes, to be honest, was just the variety of them. In 2014, Urban Decay released 2 different Vice palettes. This one here was the one that they released for holiday, which is the Vice 3 palette. And then this one is the Vice LTD palette. Let's go ahead and start with the Vice LTD palette because this one I remember being so hard to find. I think originally it was an exclusive exclusive to the Urban Decay flagship store. So I remember going to Newport Beach to track down this palette, and I was lucky enough to get it. I want to say they re-released it at some point, so it wasn't as limited edition. You know how that goes. But originally when this came out, I really thought this was going to be a hard one to find. Exactly the same layout as all the other Vice palettes. Also has 20 eyeshadows in it. It's so funny because when I'm looking at these, I'm like, yeah, they each look so similar next to the other ones. Ooh, and yeah, Blitz is getting a little funky. Do we see some mold growing in there? I think we do. Even Disco is looking a little sketchy there. So yeah, we're not going to swatch these just for hygiene's sake. You know, we're not even gonna go there. But this is the Vice LTD palette. And then the actual like official holiday palette of that year was this. This is the Vice 3 palette. This is what it looks like. And yeah, I do remember doing a review of this palette. Another 20 eyeshadows in here. Urban Decay really was cranking out these Vice palettes, and they were very, very popular. Like I said, it was basically an evolution from the Book of Shadows. And we all know the way Urban Decay, once they get something that works for them, naked, they just really drill it into the ground. So these Vice palettes were drilled into the ground. 2015 was definitely a busy year for Urban Decay, okay? We've got 4 different palettes that came out in the year of 2015. I believe all of these came out right around the holiday as well. You've got the Vice 4 palette over here. You have the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani collab, and you've got this, which they call their Urban Spectrum palette. Let's go ahead and start with Vice 4 so we can basically finish off these Vices. Although don't worry, there's one other Vice palette coming up for you guys, but I will say I think the Vice 4 was my favorite packaging. The design of this was so unique. You could tell they actually put in time and like did something different with this one, which I do really appreciate. And then when you open this one up, again, the inside, same layout, 20 shadows and a double-ended brush. I think by this point, Urban Decay realized that the Vice palettes were kind of being overdone. They did have one more come out, not in holiday, but they did have one more come out, which I'll show you guys. But I think they kind of realized that their time with the Vice was kind of aging out. This here is the Urban Spectrum palette. So like I told you guys, they did have a similar layout to that 15th anniversary palette. It's also one where the top fully comes off like that. And then you've got 15 eyeshadows. Basically exactly the same layout, to be honest, and very, very similar color scheme. I mean, a lot of these Urban Decay palettes do have similar color schemes running through them, but this one was really pretty. I will admit, this is a really pretty palette. And then finally, we've got the 2 Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palettes. These also came out holiday of 2015. One of these is an eyeshadow palette. One of these is a blush palette. The blush palette might have came out like towards the beginning of 2016, if I have my dates correct. But let's talk about this eyeshadow palette first. This is the way this packaging looks. Kind of reminds me of a Connect 4 board. You know, is anybody else getting that vibe out of it? And then as far as the inside, you have got 15 different eyeshadows in here. Very Gwen Stefani, if I'm being honest. And like I said, I remember the quality of this palette being really good. It is a basic palette, but it does look different than most other Urban Decay palettes because Urban Decay didn't go this neutral outside of their Naked range. Anytime you got these big palettes, you got a big variety of colors. So this was definitely unique for the time. And then as far as the other Gwen Stefani palette, this one was the blush palette. So opening this one up, you can see you have 6 different face powders, a couple of more highlighting shades, and then a couple of blushes in here. I remember reviewing both of these. I reviewed both of these palettes on my channel, and I really liked both of them. Okay, like I said, there was one more Vice palette to be talked about. I want to say this was probably already in the pipeline when Vice 4 came out, and Urban Decay just had to release this one. This was the Vice XX LTD Reloaded palette. And yeah, I want to say this was the very last Vice palette that we ever got. This came out in January of 2016, so very soon after the holiday collection. And as you expect, you've got your classic Vice layout. You've got 20 different eyeshadows in a variety of shades. And yeah, like I said, I think by this point, people were kind of over the Vice thing. So I don't think we ever saw it again from Urban Decay. This was the final Vice palette. Okay, I don't know where my actual eyeshadow palette of 2017 holiday went, scent, but I did find this. This was a lip palette that they came out with. They call this their Vice lipstick palette. This was the Metal Meets Matte lipstick palette. And in here, you guys can see the way Urban Decay did their lip palettes was actually really nice. They covered it. They had a whole row of metal shades in here and then a whole row of mattes. So obviously you could mix and match. And then it also included a lip brush. For a lip palette, I thought Urban Decay did a really good job with the layout. Of course, I love that it came with a little cover on it. I think, again, lip palettes were never my favorite. It was never something I reached for often, just because how are you going to touch this up? You know, I'm not packing this whole palette in my purse to then touch up these bright colors throughout the day. And you definitely can't wear a purple like this without touching it up. Like, you're going to need to touch up after you eat or drink anything. So I will admit, I didn't use lip palettes often, but for a lip palette, I thought Urban Decay did a pretty good job with this one. Okay, and then the final holiday palette that I have from Urban Decay, and the final palette in this video. Oh my gosh, we are at the end. This was the holiday palette of 2018. This is the Urban Decay Elements palette, and honestly, I didn't even remember this one existing. I think by 2018, I was just so exhausted with like the Vice palettes, and Urban Decay was kind of taking a different direction with the brand overall. This might have even been sent to me by Urban Decay because, full disclosure, I don't remember ever purchasing it. But the palette is pretty. You know, they went a different route. It's like a round palette. It doesn't have your classic Vice layout, but it does have your classic Vice type colors. If you just rearranged this in your brain and put them in squares and put them in, like, you know, your classic Vice layout, you could see this color palette being in a Vice palette. So Urban Decay didn't stray too far away from what they knew. You know, what they knew and loved for the holiday season. It just came in a different packaging layout. Again, pretty, but yeah, this one, I didn't even remember that this launched, to be completely honest with you. How many of you guys are still here with me after hours of holiday makeup reminiscing? If you guys enjoyed this video, you have no idea how much a thumbs up or a comment below would help this video out. Again, this video took days of filming, weeks of prepping. This was the biggest project I've ever undertaken, and I have no regrets. I have no regrets. I also have so many more makeup museum ideas for the future. I think I'm specifically gonna do one for makeup collaborations because there are some weird ones out there that I'm not sure a lot of us even remember. I think I'm also gonna do a full MAC makeup museum because, again, if you've been on my channel, you know that MAC makeup is how I even got this channel started. But I don't wanna give too many spoilers too early on, and please be patient with me. These videos take so much time, so I really do have to space them out. You might see a new makeup museum video in a few months, okay? Just based on how much research, time, filming, editing goes into this. But I do hope that it was a satisfying video to watch. Thank you so much for being here with me. I appreciate you guys so much. Here's to 15 years on YouTube, and fingers crossed for another 15 years. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will talk to you in my next video very soon. I'll see you then. Bye.